Welcome to the Terra Mystica International Clash. I'm MrFickles, known in real life as Dan, and I'm joined today by the indomitable, the effervescent, the Canadian DanyB. How are you doing, sir?
I'm pretty fine, thank you. Thank you for the glaring introduction. Way more than I deserve, but it's nice to be complimented in that way.
Oh man, I'm bringing the energy, baby. I'm excited for today. This is the premiere. This is the first game of the tournament, of a first ever team-based Terra Mystica tournament. And our host for the week is the US. As you will see, I believe, some interesting US themed backgrounds set up by production. So we'll see how that goes.
One might almost say it's gimmicky.
Yes, this perfectly captures American culture. Kind of tacky flag eagle splatter.
It's easy.
I say that as an American. So really excited to jump into the tournament today. And this will be the first of a series of 5 games, and then there'll be the grand final. So welcome, everyone. Excited to watch the game here with you today and discuss. And Danny, can you tell us a little bit about the format for the tournament?
Yeah, sure. So basically, it's a round-robin tournament where there's 5 teams, each representing 5 nations or continents or whatever. And then 1 player per team, which is a team of four players, gets to play a game, but he's informed by all his other teammates via communication, right? So they can talk through the moves, which is really an interesting thing. I think it hasn't really been done before in these types of board gaming tournaments. And basically, there's 5 teams, and they each play each other in their round-robin stage. And then 1 team gets eliminated, doesn't go to the grand final. So whoever wins the grand final, out of the 4 nations that remain, will be crowned world champion of Terra Mystica. So that's quite a title. And yeah, basically that's it.
So, and games will be every Saturday for the next few weeks, slightly different times. So next week will be 9 a.m. Eastern, which I believe is, let's say, 3 p.m. in Berlin. I don't know what that means for where people are around the world watching this, but put it on your calendar now. This week we've got the host team gets to pick the map and landscape settings. So this week we've got the US choosing to play on Fire and Ice map, landscapes off, which is the current arena parameter settings, which I think is probably informed by the fact that one of the US players is currently number 1 in arena, thinking that might be
has something to do with it. Yeah, that might be just like a slight thing to do with it, but I'm not sure. I'm not entirely convinced.
But viewers should look forward to every single one of these games is in a different permutation here with respect to these parameters. So lots of variety coming up in these games that will be cool. And you are on Team Canada, and so you'll be jumping into the fray a week from now. So that will be exciting.
Can't wait.
So I'll say a little bit. Yeah, I'll say a little bit about Team Asia here. So one of the teams playing today is Team Asia, and it's combined players from a few different countries. So Deep Finesse is a very strong arena player. Jekyll03 is super high elo. She also happens to be the first female player in the tournament, which is really exciting. And she's been top 10 on Board Game Arena. FireX is a longtime player on Snellman and runs the Fjords League. And Anoop is often playing.
We got here Brazil with the 2 main stars, I think, of Brazil are Logis and Rafael. I mean, Logis is just a strong player. He's played on Snellman a lot, and he's making waves on BJ as well. He even reached, I think, the master title, which is granted when you reach a 700 elo. So that's going to be pretty interesting to see how this team interacts, I think, given that you have kind of someone that has more experience. But I haven't played with the other guys, but yeah, looks strong as well.
Now, not playing today is Canada, but we have DanyB, Chris O, Zoris, and George Shortwell. We'll be hearing more about them in future weeks. But I think a super strong team. Some of you may know Zoris has done a lot to help improve the play of other players online. So if you haven't checked out Zoris's YouTube channel, definitely do that. This is a team that I think a lot of people are worried about playing against.
That third guy from the right, I don't know who he is. Probably
looks like trouble.
And yeah, we got Europe here with a really super strong alignment of players here. Zivok, a Snellman legend, has just started playing recently on BGA, so maybe the fact that he's new to the live play formula might influence the play a little bit for him today. But he's been practicing, and his skills are undoubtedly super strong as he showed on Snellman. And yeah, finally we have USA, right? Which is a team you were in, actually, MrFickles, as well.
Barely. I'm I don't know what a hanger on, a dingleberry. I'm an alternate, yeah, but not a proper member. Yeah. So anyway, NerdCube's, probably arguably the top player right now. I think it's very close. Sprockets is a dominant both async and live player. Rainier's tons of experience. So, and Lumen is Division 1 on Snellman, super strong team. And we'll tell you guys a little bit more about these teams as we jump in. So in a moment, we're going to transition here into seeing the setup, which is always like an awesome moment. It's like unwrapping a present at Christmas time. So really excited to see what kind of game we're going to see here today.
And I'm curious to see how the communications will affect these players playing, because it's tricky to fit 4 brains into one, especially in such a short time limit. It's really interesting, and it's a challenge to actually figure out a direction and what you want to do and which plays to make. So
that's right. Now, each team has told us who's going to be piloting this week. So there's going to be one person at the controls with input from 3 other voices into their head as they try to play, which kind of sounds like a nightmare. But so we have Deep Finesse will be piloting for Asia, Jevok will be piloting for Europe, Logus for Brazil, and NerdCube for the US. So it's kind of an insanely strong group of pilots as well. Although this is a team-based game, so the pilot I think will matter, but I think it's also just a cool opportunity to have people come together to play this game that, like especially online, sometimes can be sort of an isolated thing. I think it's really interesting to see how this is going to work in communication. And maybe you at some point could share with us a little bit how it's been going in preps for Team Canada and what that's like.
Yeah, I mean, it's we've done it a few times. I'm not going to disclose anything, right? But no, but it's obviously. I think every team has been practicing this type of stuff, because most of the players that are playing in this tournament don't have any issues, I think, with just playing the game. I mean, everybody in the tournament is pretty experienced. So we'll see how that goes. Yep.
That's exciting. So we'll look forward to hearing more. So ladies and gentlemen, the setup is ready. Let's take a look at what our game 1 of International Clash looks like here. Production, give us the game. Awesome.
Cool. All right. It looks like we can see clearly what's going on.
Wow. Interesting.
So do you have any first impressions, Dan?
Yeah. So, I mean, just starting with the track, your dwellings round 1 suggests that a dwelling rest strategy is viable. And then it's interesting to see temple round 3 into dwelling round 4, TP, round 5, 6. I think it's a relatively high scoring track, but double stacking 5 and 6 TPs is a little clunky, but I actually think it's not as bad as people make it out to be when TPs are stacked, as opposed to some of the other events.
I agree with that. Yep. We see already 2 picks being picked pretty quickly. Nomads into Orens. I think Orens makes sense, right? And Nomads as well. I think both factions can do a round 2 stronghold pretty reliably. The only thing that doesn't really go into favor of Dwelling Rush is maybe the lack of the temp ship tile in the bonus tile. So maybe that kind of throws a wrench a bit in these plans. But it's still possible for some factions, I guess. And you have Nomads into Oren, and then what are we missing else? We're missing the 6 coins bonus tile. We're missing the Dwelling bonus tile, and the other
trading post. I
is
think you mean
the trading post. Yeah, the trading post. Sorry. And the last one we're missing is, I'm not sure, but I guess the viewers can see.
Yeah. So it's interesting. So with the dig scroll in, seed 4 is interesting. I mean, I think we'd have to say there are definitely 4 scrolls that you'd be pretty happy with having for round 1, which so that's nice when you're in seat 1, at least you're getting probably, big building with 2 workers, 3 power and a worker, or priest, presumably. The dig will almost certainly be gone by then, but you're gonna be pretty happy with any of those.
Yeah, whatever you end up with, you're gonna be fine, I think, especially for nomads. Yeah. So
there's an interesting path here. If you can get to the 4th step, like priest to water here, round 1 feeds you backup priest that you could then put to cult in round 2, and all of that turns into coins in round 3. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, and Oren looks like a faction that can do that pretty efficiently, right? With just a single priest and in the 3rd spot, and it looks like Oren are on the 2nd seat, so it's likely they get the priest, right? We can imagine that the spade and the 2 workers might be more important than the priest here, especially depending on the. But now when we see Darklings, and that messes up a bit that calculation, I think. Yeah.
It's a really, really good Darklings track. Darklings jumped out at me when I saw the track here, because they I mean, so first of all, they love late TPs, and they can put tons of dwellings down round 4. They could potentially go sanctuary round 2. They could go temple round 1, sanctuary round 2. It's not impossible that they go temple round 3 and just crank priest, which is to say crank digs and points from then on, which is just a crazy way to start a game. We'll see if it plays out that way, but the potential on Darklings is really high.
I immediately thought about Darklings as well as soon as I saw that, because it's a game, I think, that rewards you to play a bit tall earlier on, and then after, you can just expand. You can probably do 2 towns, maybe that's enough. Depending on the factions, perhaps getting some points on connection, depending on who's where. And because we even though nomads usually are strong on connection, the difficult part for them in this map is to really connect. I think it's pretty hard. You get pushed out on the outskirts of the map, and it can be awkward to actually connect all of your structures. So
who's that? Darklings?
Nomads.
Nomads, right? Yes, right. And you can kind of see, just looking at possible starting placements, there's one sort of on the central diagonal that's like, kind of obvious, and other than that, it starts to look edgy.
Yep.
Which is what you're getting at, which now can cause problems.
Yep. And even you got a green faction which is Oren, right? Not witches. And so usually witches are pretty strong on this map for their stronghold ability, because you can actually place dwellings in recording in favor of leech more, and then after worry about connection by just like slamming your dwelling on the F3 hex, the one on the south, the northern tip green hex there. But since it's Oren, it's going to be tougher to connect. So maybe if you play a low footprint game as Darklings or whatever faction, you might have a shot at getting network points, even though all of the other factions have more structures than you. So
something
I think that's another reason. Yeah, that's something to keep in mind.
I would say, failing to connect is really common on this map, and we'll come back to a little bit how this might play out once we see the full the full set of factions. But one thing that, if you're new to seeing this map, although most viewers I likely have seen this before, but there's this really dominant diagonal landmass coming. It's just slashing through the middle of this map, and it's really easy to get stuck on one side of that diagonal versus the other, or to be stranded such that your two camps can't connect. So here we have it. Wow. So we've got 3 colors in a row. And swarmlings in a sandwich, not that they care too much about being in a sandwich. And then nomads on the other side of the color wheel. Interesting. Yep.
It's Brazil that picked swarmlings, I believe. And not surprising, Logis is a swarmling specialist, as we all know. So maybe he has a trick up his sleeve in this game. But it does look pretty promising for swarmlings as well. I mean, you got the bonus style that you want. You start with it, or with a spade, or with the priest, right? There's a lot of options, and round 2 sanctuary is pretty good for swarmlings as well. So we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah, swarmlings are just such a good faction.
They're so resilient.
What's that? Yeah, they're resilient. They're I just think they're super strong. I mean, so I think it'll be interesting to see to what extent. It'll be interesting to see how the cults play out now that we see this. Swarmlings and Orin can be extremely cult heavy. Darklings can be a little bit cult oriented once in a while, usually not too much so. So it should likely be between Orin and Swarmlings. It'll be interesting if Orin go hard on cults. Whether Swarmlings can scrounge enough, especially with the absence of the trading post scroll. But I think Swarmlings are so good in a variety of situations that I think they're going to do just fine.
Yeah, and the track really rewards you for playing cults. You see that round 3 temple. Sure, the points for a temple is nice, but I think what's even better is the coins for the priest, right? That you get. So we'll see how that influences people. Maybe Darklings will try to fight off in the cults early on, just to benefit from having these early coins, so they can improve a bit their economy. So that's something to keep in mind.
Yeah, it's a great point. I mean, I've come to view Swarmlings as just a force of nature in Terra Mystica, and just needs to be bid down every time. I think there was a game recently that NerdCube shared where he won his Swarmlings, where he basically got, I think it was only 5 points from the track the entire game. He had more points and leftover resources than he did from the track, and he was able to win.
That is crazy. That is
so really, it's just, it's almost unethical the way they can abuse certain, I would say certain fundamental elements of Terra Mystica. Swarmlings can just break. And one of them being they really don't need to actually build very much to score.
They don't need neighbors. Yeah.
I have a question for you, Danny. So if you look at Swarmlings here, so they're very happy with big building round 2, so they'll gun for their stronghold round 1 and aim for sanctuary round 2, and then could easily do a temple round 3. But after that, the track does not look great for them.
Yeah,
I guess they'll leverage the last 3 rounds nearly as well as the other factions.
Well, that's the thing. I don't think you build the second temple in round 3. I think if I'm playing, maybe I'm totally wrong also, but maybe I would think about advancing my digs and trying to place out a bit more dwellings and carving out my other towns. Or maybe I would think about raising my ships and trying to abuse the ship scoring tile. So I think with Swarmlings, you upgrading your techs is a much more efficient way of scoring than following the track, because your buildings cost more, but the techs still cost the same amount of money. So in percentage, it's much cheaper for you to get on that. And so I think, however, I'm not sure it's going to be enough in this game to just upgrade your techs maximum and just play a small footprint game, because the cults might be contested a bit on Orin here, with Orin being in the game. And
yeah, so I would say it's interesting. I agree. But what you just said was you're going to kind of ignore round 1. You're going to try to get to sanctuary round 2, and then maybe you hit round 4 a little bit, but mostly you're not playing the track anymore.
I don't think so. No.
And I'll say this. By the way, I totally agree. And I think what's interesting about that is it puts a lot of faith in hitting that ship and big building scroll, and it's really only the two of them because there's no TP scroll in, that makes, I think, this setup a little bit higher variance for Swarmlings than typical.
I totally agree.
Which will be interesting to watch.
All of these factions want that big bonus tile. All of them, right? Everybody's gonna probably either have a sanctuary or a stronghold by round 2. I mean, I think that's a fair estimation to make. So we'll see if they can play the shuffle game in a really efficient way for Swarmlings, because it's dangerous. It is.
Exactly. And at some point, some faction may try to deny, for example, a ship scroll somewhere in there that might be super critical for them to score. So we see Darklings bid down to 20. Neither of us are too surprised by that, although they can have a harder time on this map. And we see second faction bid here is Nomads, who are stronger on this map than on base map, I would say, and they have no color neighbor here. So I think these make sense. It'll be interesting to see where the starting placements ends up being as well.
I'm pretty curious as well, because I mean, most people will go into the center, right, the north center with I don't know if we can get the hexes or we can draw. Perfect. So most people, I guess, would go right here, right, in that middle stretch. But there is some possibility for Nomads to go here and Darklings to follow them as well in that place. So that creates an interesting leech dynamic where, but other places, it's really a high variance on this map. I haven't really found yet like something as constant as robust regarding starting positions as on the base map, I think, which is kind of interesting to me in that on this map.
And it's likely that witches will try to do something like this, starting in a very central position. Such that for Leech, but then have a nice, this is a really sweet town if they can get it, because it doesn't require bridges. There can be a lot of bridge pressure on this map, depending on the game. So, that's central. I think there's always an interesting question of if, so let's say if Swarmlings are starting here, central, does that end up getting abandoned, right? Because I think it's pretty likely.
Yep. And I think you'd rather abandon it and soak in the Leech rather than trying to fight an awkward town there with because there's no really friendly hexes, and this one is taken probably, and this one as well, by Darklings and Orans respectively.
Yeah, so I mean, sometimes there can be more of a party in the south, especially when gray is in the game. So if gray, yellow, blue are in, it can pull the action to the southern cluster. But I think early game the action is going to be in the middle where we've drawn those X's, and
I'm pretty sure. Yeah,
it'll be interesting to see where kind of second placements go here, because I think it's an interesting case where the second placements can be a little bit unpredictable, and Swarmlings won't care so much, right? Because they want one placement with adjacency, and their other one that can be off on its own. Probably I think on the right. Yeah, exactly. So I totally agree. And so it'll be, but, where do Darklings go with that second placement, and will they have a neighbor wherever they go?
I guess they might try to go here, maybe, just to secure maybe access to the north. But you're not facing mermaids, so maybe it's not as crucial. Yeah.
That's a super key hex when brown or mermaids are in. Right? Like that's super critical. Surrounded by water on 5 sides gets you access to so much area. I don't think it's super critical here. But I think Darklings do typically play on the diagonal on this map, so they'll often, they'll often play right. Like, so they'll play kind of on this side of this diagonal here, and because this northwest is actually really nice. For them, they just don't want to necessarily start up there unless they're going to have company.
Yeah, the issue I think with Darklings trying that game plan is maybe there's difficulty accessing this part of the map. Maybe Nomads start here, And also, so maybe that expansion gets cutted away from them. Maybe nomads are aggressive and they start with a stronghold here and they just block that access. Perhaps maybe witches or Orients go here, and so there's like some. I think in each game where there are nomads, there's like a really there's always pressure, right? Because the nomad stronghold is just so
that's funny. That
right?
would be really hostile.
Yeah.
But I will say this.
That would.
There's a starting combination that I always want to see, which is black starting here and then green starting on one of the two next to it, because there's a one dig for 2 hexes for green there, which seems really good for green, but also feeds black tons of leech, and black has now access to a couple browns in the north, pretty close to some other blacks. I don't see it much, but I feel like there's a time and a place for that.
I think it's because it's heavily sided in favor of green factions more than brown, because green faction get 3 adjacent squares to build their trading post and stuff, but black only gets 1, and so you have to fish out for a town with a bridge and hope that you get other neighbors in the north, which isn't clear that you'll get this game, like, or not soon enough, probably. But yeah, it would be pretty cool to see that, because it seems good in theory for both of these. Yeah.
Well, and of course, if that's good for both, but better for green, then by some Terra Mystica theory, then it should be what they do, and the fact that it helps green more than black should be just baked into the auction. But not everyone adheres to these philosophies.
No, and as we can see, Orange still haven't been touched in the auction. Right, we're down at 15 points for Darklings, with Team USA piloting that, and Team Europe has bid down Nomads to 23 points. So do you think these bids are fair up until now?
Yeah. I don't think, I mean, in some sense, Darklings are extremely safe here because of the track being so good for them, and they're just an inherent robustness. They have, in my opinion, and I think by certain metrics, have a harder time on this map than base map. And I really like when, if black starts in that center hex, when they can at least get that blue that's next to it and try to turn that more easily into something. I think there's a chance that when they start on that center black, that gets stranded, because they'll be surrounded, especially if green snaps up the one across the water from that one. Exactly. Yeah. So I think that is an example of something that makes me, where I see a tiny bit of downside risk potentially with Darklings. But other than that, I think they're really safe, and I think that's why we're seeing. Well, I guess I shouldn't just say safe. They're strong, and I can see the bids on Nomads. Maybe you could talk a little bit more about Nomads here. I mean, I think the obvious thing is, seat 1, and being on the other side of the color wheel from the other 3, and yellow being generally strong on this map.
Yeah, I think Nomads here seem pretty good. There's a few pathways that you could take. Even if the temp ship was in the game, you could do some nasty little dwelling rushes. Like you have so many yellow hexes that are within reach of one ship. The stronghold round 2 is pretty. It's not standard, but I think on this map the stronghold for Nomads is more important than on base map, because usually the hexes that give you leech a lot, that gets you into that leech circle, or are usually not so friendly to Nomads, especially given that scenario. So I think a stronghold round 2 would be pretty good for that faction, and I think you can just try to win network. Also, it helps you connect, right? Because you can, instead of having to rely only on your native hexes and your one dig hexes, you can actually take shortcuts via the stronghold. And so I think Nomads here have to exert some kind of pressure on the other players in order to have a successful game. Because
by that you mean via Sandstorm.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm learning about you here, DanyB. Very pro Sandstorm.
on this map, I think it's pretty good. Yeah. but
No,
I might be totally wrong as well.
I think we should also reflect, yellow and sometimes brown similarly has trouble connecting on this map, but that's a much smaller concern when you have no color neighbor. So like the fact that I think this is one of the reasons we're seeing nomads getting bid down here is like their connection is safer than usual.
It's safer.
Yeah, exactly. Which I totally agree with what you said earlier, which is it is a big risk, but I think they're actually going to be okay. Probably connecting here. And I do suspect that on that central diagonal, we'll see Darklings and Nomads being kind of friends at the southern part of that central diagonal.
Here, you mean?
So exactly where you had sort of speculated earlier that they might be friends. I think makes a lot of sense. We'll see if that comes to fruition. I think there's an interesting kind of awkward alignment between the two here, where the Nike swoosh is there, where you could kind of imagine them being friends somewhere down there, and at the same time it's unclear how well they can coordinate. And so I think it's a little awkward for them to help each other, especially with the risk of green and blue sort of boxing black in. So I think that will end up not coming to fruition.
The only thing I see with Nomads here is that maybe they get left out of early leech, and that's the only thing that maybe is a bit worrisome. Maybe worrisome is too much of an important word, but it's certainly worth something, right? Leech is important, especially in the early game. So because like where do they start Nomads? Maybe here, probably, right? I think that's a given, maybe, or maybe not as well. But
but you're speculating this will be the leech.
I think so.
That's your theory. I think that I think is the kind of the knee jerk. Now it's hard to anticipate the nuances of that because sometimes we have our game.
Well, I guess we'll see. I guess we don't have to speculate and anticipate no more. I guess we'll just see it unfold.
I like it. Very exciting.
So Darklings went for pretty low. I think they were down to like in the tens of VPs, like 12 or 11, I think, something like that. Yeah, 13 VPs for Darklings, 19 for Nomads, and 30 for both cult factions. 30 for both Oren and Swarming faction. So that's interesting.
And which also signals there might have been a little disagreement between Europe and Asia about which was the worst faction in the situation, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think people disagreed on that quite clearly. I think it's rare. I think we don't really see often 230 VP factions. It's not something that happens quite frequently. So it's pretty interesting. I guess it's going to come down to who gets the 2 key town first between these two factions. Pretty much. And pretty much.
I mean, green can get around the map so well that even if you're not witches, you can. I think that's probably selling Oren a little short. Like I think they can still win 2 cults or have a first in 3 seconds and be pretty darn happy with that. Yeah,
it's just a lot of investment. I think the stronghold. So maybe because you don't have temp ship, and so getting around is a bit more costly in this game. So I think you'll have to make some sacrifices, maybe or have a clear plan of like what you're trying to accomplish, and hope that it pans out here because.
And we'll definitely see some early ship increases here. The ship point scroll is in. I definitely expect we'll see some early increases from some of these factions. So like in particular, I would say Oren and Nomads look, and who knows, maybe we'll even see an early priest take or the priest they get off the pass scroll going actually to a ship increase for round 1. I don't think it's crazy.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, so far we were on point with our dwelling predictions, I think.
Except for this Darkling in the northwest.
Yeah, exactly. That was hence the so far.
Sorry.
No, I'm just kidding around.
Yeah, that's interesting. Team USA. Well, are they expecting Nomads third? One of the Nomads ones to be on that yellow.
I guess maybe that's an invitation.
It strikes me as an invitation, but a risky one. and we'll see how Logos, Rafa, Melindor, and Reda Bio are feeling, whether they're in a giving mood. They are.
They are.
Very
Nice.
generous.
Okay. Well, I think it's also safe for nomads. I think maybe that red and that brown under are not that much threatened, I think, as we said.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. And I actually often see nomads start there to kind of quote unquote guarantee connection. If they want to start somewhere in the south and whatnot. But we did get the other, they did start on the diagonal at the bottom. So we'll see. It's interesting. I think the biggest curveball strikes me as that Darkling's placement in the north of the diagonal. Yeah. But I love that, like I mentioned, I love that northwest for the black factions. I think it's a really nice area for them. So I think it makes a lot of sense. So this is going to be spicy. So we see the Swarmlings taking the big building scroll, which means the dig scroll slides to Darklings.
Interesting.
Green snaps up the priest.
They chose the dig over the priest. That's pretty spicy. And yeah, so the priest goes to Orin, as we mentioned, I think, earlier. And I guess nomads will take the worker power, I guess, or maybe the coins, but I think worker power has a bit more value early on. Yeah,
they're probably right now just talking through what exactly they want to do round one to see how useful these are, but I'd be a little surprised if it doesn't end up being worker power.
Yeah, there we have it. So there's like a possibility of nomads and darklings leeching off in the northwest, and I think that's favorable for darklings. Wow! Right away. Okay.
Wow. Okay. And now they do want the leech party middle.
They want in on that leech party. Yeah.
It's interesting. I'd be curious what would have happened if they had upgraded in the north.
I think that's better. I think that's better for darklings, maybe, because then darklings don't have to, like, their sanctuary just goes into a town without any fuss, without any extra work. True. But maybe. But it's a possibility to have a stranded sanctuary, I know, and I don't think Darklings are looking at a 3-town game. Maybe I'm wrong. So if you're only building 2 towns, then it's certainly possible to not have a sanctuary in one of them. But we'll see. We'll see if they decide to go that way, and if
this is where we'll see how the team play goes, because there could be some clash of styles.
Yeah.
Because Rainier's in there, definitely planning for 3 towns. He loves towns, but we're gonna end up seeing. This is actually it's tricky because I have a relatively good sense for the style of play and one thing I love about Terra Mystica is that there are styles of play. Like you definitely can play the game in different ways. But given that we're watching the Frankenstein, the pieced together, team. And so it'll be hard to figure out exactly what the style is that we'll be observing. But I don't think Darklings need to go for 3 towns, certainly.
No, I don't think so. Yeah.
It's a great point. I really like this point about, your sanctuary as Darklings goes with no fuss, to use your language, no bridge needed in that little trio of black, brown, blue in the north. Whereas this one, you can upgrade it and you'll get leech, but it gets a little uncomfortable after that. I mean, I think counter argument would be that you could probably triple dig that red hex at some point, and then it's just a bridge to a black that I don't think Swarmlings will try to take.
I can see, given Nomads placed their last dwelling on the south there, it's going to be hard to connect. I mean, it's going to be a race because either you need to get on the other side of that main diagonal stretch, or that red that you just mentioned, that's a good connection point for Nomads as well.
I was talking about the center red that's right next to the blue and black TPs.
Yeah, this red, Nomads might want that as well for connection.
Oh, you think they're going to connect on that side? Okay, I assumed they would. I assumed they would connect in the eastern water passage.
It depends on how ends are able to go down that stretch.
Yeah, no, that's fair. All right, so we're seeing some, and so who do we? So I think we're also seeing how
I think Orange
will line up for double dig here.
Orange seemed like they have a good shot at it, but probably.
Yeah, and Oren did, and they took priest now.
They took priest instead. Okay.
So my conclusion, so they did take this line, and like you had said, Oren would be in the driver's seat for this, but that priest to water, which is going to be a priest back, and it'll be a 2 coins at the end of round 3. Which, and this next priest will, the one in hand will almost certainly go to shipping. And maybe I'm wrong about that. But it strikes me as it could go to shipping, and that given where they started with no digging at all, they can get 2 dwellings down.
Yeah, that's a reasonable assumption. I think that might be a solid plan. One other thing to consider is maybe just put it into the cults and try to abuse the coins in round 3. Maybe that's what they were planning also with that, but it's certainly possible to upgrade ships. Yeah, it would make sense as well. Yeah.
Okay, so you think they might put that to air right here?
Air, maybe.
Yeah, that's fair.
To get the jump. That is one of these pivotal moments, right? Do you commit to playing on cults and try to beat swarmlings at their own game? Like, do you try to compete on that level of play, or do you try to do something else, expand and play another type of game? So I think these are kind of the early moments in a game where I think the path can be created, and a path can be
It's what is it? The butterfly effect, right? Like the idea that this, this one very small decision has like these profound, implications down the road, or something like a bullwhip, right? Where you like make a little flick of the wrist here, and at the end of the whip, you've got a huge repercussion. And I think that's right. The part of it that's, I mean, round 1, if round 2 was dwellings as opposed to round 1 being dwelling points. But I think you're right. I think both of those are really good lines. Getting that priest to air. It
really depends, and I think by their placement, they didn't set themselves up to use a double dig efficiently, right? Because they only have that green hex in the southern middle part. Let's call it that. So unless they have ships, they can't really use a double dig efficiently. So maybe it was all along in their plans that they didn't want the double dig in the first round, and either priest to ships or priest to cults.
It's funny because I mean, I'd have to think that swarmlings will be taking double dig here in this round. But if they don't, it's not impossible that I would think it would be swarmlings, but wouldn't it be crazy if Team Asia increases ship and then somehow gets the double dig?
I think it's likely, maybe. Yeah, there's a good chance that maybe that happens.
So the swarmlings early round here. So I'd have to think that they really want to hit that sanctuary round 2, and I don't know, like, to me, when I play swarmlings in this types of situations, it's a little bit stressful. It's a lot of careful counting to make sure the workers and coins add up to hit sanctuary. You'd think it'd be straightforward, but you actually have to know what pass scroll you're going to go on to, and so I think swarmlings also will be, because I think if they miss sanctuary round 2, it's a really big setback for them.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not good if they miss that, and I think it usually helps when you have either a worker income in the first round through cults, or either a spade income, because then you don't need to invest resources in taking spade actions or taking worker actions or whatever. You just need to use your power as efficiently as possible, which is power to coin conversion. And so I think that definitely helps. But that being absent here in our scenario, because we don't have any of these sort of cult incomes early on, can make things a bit tricky, to get it right.
We see the coin power action going to Darklings here for Team USA. They're gearing up for Sanctuary round 2. Make sure that they'll have the coins.
Yep. And I'm pretty sure. I guess they'll take Fire 1. We see already Team Brazil taking Fire 1 as their first favor. I think that's pretty standard when swarmlings are in the game. I think there's less pressure on Earth 1, and there's a lot to be done with coins here in this game. I think you have your big buildings in the second round, and then another temple if you want to get on that. So that's expensive, right? So I think that makes sense as a favor pick.
Yeah, no, first of all, I love it. It's exciting. I want to see more econ, and And the other thing that I think is something to keep in mind here is at the helm of Team Europe is Jevok, who comes from the old school kind of Snellman approach, was number one Snellman player. Snellman is a kind of asynchronous kind of gameplay website that's separate from Board Game Arena that's been going on for a long time. And he is like figured out Swarmlings. It learned how to play Swarmlings in a way that nobody did for a while. And he was like the dominant Swarmlings player on Snellman. And he played having clicked through a bunch of his old games, even before, for some reason I did this even before I started playing Terra Mystica myself. He has a kind of an economic style. And I actually think this track suits Jevok's Swarmling style better than the way Swarmlings are typically played in the modern era, which is very, very small footprints, sometimes only 7/8 structures. And I'm super curious to see how Jevok plays them. And the reason I brought it up as a segue from the Nomad's favorite pick is I don't think depending on what Jevok's plans are, I don't think it's impossible that he takes Earth 1 to hurt Nomads and decides to play a slightly more expansive game.
Yeah, that might be possible. That's true. All right, so we're going to move to Lizzy here, which is our field reporter, to get us some insight on in the behind scenes aspects of this tournament. So, Lizzy, can you hear us? Are you there?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you guys hear me?
On my end, yeah.
Okay, good. Well, I was just talking to Team Europe. As you can see, I'm here on the sidelines of the ice. Anyway, Team Europe, they were actually very surprised about the Darkling start on A3.
Okay.
And they think everything is going good right now. Last I talked to them just a couple minutes ago, they were happy with the way it's going. They were surprised that Orin was picked for 30 immediately after they jumped on Swarmlings for 30. Okay. They were not expecting that at all. So that was a big surprise for them.
Cool. Yeah,
very interesting. We can see that you're located in the ice on the map. We can see exactly where you're located there. So thanks for bearing the cold, although it looks like pretty nice setting for you.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, real cold out here today. Actually, it's not. But luckily, you can see some snow-capped mountains in the background.
That's interesting. Well, we'll be curious to see. We'll be curious to see how this plays out. We were just talking a little bit about the Swarmlings and what. Did you gather any kind of intel on whether they're planning to play a small footprint, only 7/8 structure Swarmlings game, or more expansive, or still to be determined?
That's a great question. I didn't gather intel on that. But I will, next time I talk to them, I'll make sure to ask.
Nice.
Great. Well, we look forward to popping into you again in the future. Thanks for the update.
All right. Thanks guys.
Lizzy.
Thanks, Lizzy.
So yeah, and as we roll back to the game, Orin did upgrade their ships, as you said, Fickles. So I think that's a very reasonable thing to do. And yeah, they just built on G6. So it was you called it right. It was a correct call on your behalf. It makes sense.
Correct in the literal sense. We'll see if it's correct in the strategic sense. Yeah, I guess. I mean, I do think part of what we're doing is not necessarily we're trying to help the viewer get inside the head of the players more so than saying what I would do in the situation. But we'll see. We'll see how this goes. Yeah, and then which is also to say there'll be that air cult 3-step. There'll be a little race for that in round 2, or Darklings still have a priest in hand.
Yeah, that's true. And we'll see. I'm curious to see if because Swarmlings, as you mentioned earlier, can with another style of play, they can actually play a bit less horizontally rather than vertically. Let's call it that way. And so I'm curious if you think a Sanctuary round 2 is congruent with that sort of play. If you want to like spread out, do you think you can afford to actually build a second round Sanctuary, or do you try to do something else and actually forego that?
Yeah, I mean, I would say if we see Earth 1 or an economic favor, right? Because they're going to pull 2 favors between the temple and the sanctuary. If we see Earth 1 or an economic favor, then I think that will be telling. If they go Water 1 and Air 1, then that hope and dream is over.
Yeah.
So yeah, but if it was Logos at Swarmlings right now, I wouldn't even bring it up. But the fact that it's Javok, I kind of in the track, like I don't think it's necessarily wrong here. I mean, I think it's interesting. Yeah. How about that?
There's some surprises to be had, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, the Fire 2 tournaments have come with no shortage of surprises. So there's no reason to expect less from this tournament here, especially if we consider the fact that there's actually 4 brains being crammed into one on each of these behind the scenes of each of these players. So yeah.
Now, one thing that can be interesting in Terra Mystica is there's the initial leech, and then there's looking at where people are spreading out to and to what extent there's sort of friendly interactions upon that expansion. And one thing that we could see is in the south, it's possible that we'll see green and yellow become very friendly neighbors in the south there. That may or may not happen, but I could see green in that southern cluster grabbing, the blue, gray, blue and yellow cutting across the bottom, maybe with a sandstorm on that black at some point.
Yeah, definitely.
Being real, and that's like really in a way that I actually worry a little bit about Darklings in the northwest potentially.
Yeah,
getting left alone in a way that is quite harmful to them.
Yeah, they're not going to see much action there. I think most of their leech is coming in the beginning, and then after that, it's going to be tough for them to follow that up with more leech. I can see also nomads being friends with on the opposite side in the northeastern side of the continent with swarmlings, right? Maybe that's a possibility as well. So
yeah, and you'd think they're heading there pronto because once they get to that yellow, there's 1 dig for 2 hexes. That's interesting. And again, not that Swarmling cares at all, right? Swarmlings.
Exactly.
But for nomads, that's nice. And maybe something we should keep in mind here that in some sense that being the case, we just mentioned 2 possible companionships that would be favorable to them. Now, on the other hand, Swarmlings can delay going there sometimes for a while. We'll see. But okay, here's the Swarmlings favor poll. It is Earth 1. Oh baby.
Oh wow.
Okay, this is Javok. Pull up.
Yeah, he's in a punishing mood maybe, or I don't know.
Exactly.
But I think that's a strong tactical play. I think.
Yeah.
And we'll see if it pans out because it's kind of tough to milk Earth 1 as Swarmlings. It's a bit harder than for most factions given their increased building costs and such, but it's definitely possible. And so maybe we'll get a counter clinic on wide Swarmlings this game. We'll see about that.
Javok specializes in this kinds of Swarmlings play, so I think I think he's going to try to score a lot in round 4.
Okay.
He's going to increase digs and try to score a lot in round 4 would be my guess, and go from there. But yeah, I mean, first of all, I'm just excited for having seen a lot of 7/8 structure Swarmlings games. I'm really excited to see how this goes.
It's kind of interesting because usually most people would be excited about a faction not taking Earth 1, but with Swarmlings, it's kind of the opposite because we're so in our community in the board game arena community. We're so used to that sort of play that it's actually the opposite for that faction.
Well, we have a really great combination, right? Which is that we just saw Darklings and Nomads take Fire 1 and economic favor, right? Which is really exciting to see them crank up their econ like that. And then Swarmlings go Earth 1, which means they're going to be gunning a little bit more in expansion. And so the whole start to this game, I think is really, really exciting. I think it'll be super interesting now. So the other thing that happens, right, is Darklings and Nomads look at that Earth 1 pull from Swarmlings and wonder a little bit now whether they're going to get it because Orin are going to build a temple. I almost certainly are about to build a temple.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see what they take. I think that's going to be Earth 1.
Maybe. The question now lies with Nomads is there a world where they want to go Sanctuary in the second round instead of Temple, just to like immediately grab that and be over with that dilemma?
That's interesting.
Maybe that's
yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, their power is also in an awkward position because they can't quite, they actually no. So they'll take the coins.
But do they forego the coins too? Yes. I think it depends on what Orin will take. If Orin takes Earth 1 here, I think that option maybe might appear to be quite quite
they want to take the coins, and they'll be in a really interesting decision spot where they'll have to see if that's worth it. Not
because
that sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say the Sanctuary in the middle, it makes sense for them as well. It's a 3 hex down. So
that's a good point. Yeah, so there's no waste involved in that. Sometimes people rush that. Yeah, and I guess is their economy off to a good enough start to go Sanctuary round 2? I think the answer is yes, because they took Fire 1 round 1. They got at least 1 dig. So I think that's totally reasonable. We'll see what they end up doing.
Yeah. And they have a lot of cheap hexes available right now to them via just 1 ship. So Fire 1, just advancing your ships once is pretty, it's not that costly especially when you have Fire 1. So we'll see if that takes into play, because I could see, raising ships, then trying to populate the north a bit and the south a bit to try to get these neighbors that you were mentioning earlier. So that might be possible.
Yeah, there's one thing that's a little awkward. Although this is a really nice reason to get Fire 1, the 3 coins per round favor here, is that the TPs are in 5 and 6. So there's this kind of pressure to delay your trading post building till late, but that's your money income. And so it's really, and there's no 6 coin pass scroll. So it's really nice to have that Fire 1 at least keep you afloat on coins while you delay some of your TP building till later.
And we all thought that Orins were building a temple, but they didn't actually. They just built another trading post.
Wow. Interesting. Yeah. Really interesting.
So I guess that tells me that that they chose a stronghold over a temple, because I think they couldn't afford both of them.
Yep.
Which is the choice I was mentioning earlier. You're gonna have to make some sacrifices as Orin here, I think, and we'll see if it ends up being the right call.
They did some accounting and felt like this was the way to go. I love, though, passing on to the big building point scroll with big building round 2, and then being able to get a stronghold down that has some kind of economic effects as well. The problem a little bit for me is that's the return on those stronghold steps for Orin isn't fantastic.
Yeah,
it's going to give them 1 worker at the end of this round. It will give them nothing in round 3 because that's irrelevant. And then power round 4 is one of the weaker ones, and power later is less helpful. And then finally something helpful again on water, which will be good, but is late. So that to me is a little bit of a knock on this approach.
I think the priests, and also it's kind of weird also, which is why I don't really like Orin. Like I don't play them often. Maybe I just don't get them. But you have this kind of duality between, like, if you choose to go the stronghold route, then you need to have a presence on cults, but then you don't have priests because you don't build a temple. And here priests not only get you what the stronghold can get you, right, which is cult presence, but it also gets you money in round 3. Which they managed to get at least 1 in there, but so which is why I'm not entirely convinced that this is the right play as I see it, as I see it. But I can certainly be proven wrong, and I can't wait to be proven wrong, actually, because it's interesting. It is.
Yeah. So they're pretty loaded up on power. So we'll see, but they're out of resources. So that they have a priest that I'm guessing is going to a cult here, and then we'll see if they kind of pass to get first choice at digging and things next round, or if maybe they'll just dig and leave it. I'm curious how they end up playing this. We should also note that the dig scroll is just hanging out there.
Yeah,
a dig and 3 coins, and so
waiting to be taken.
Yeah, some of these top players, like when you see that, I know I do this when I see that floating. I get pretty excited about a quick pass onto that sometimes.
And it looks like actually Team Brazil, they with the first action they sent the priest to air, and so they weren't interested in Earth 1, right? Because we see that Darklings and Orange just secured it. So they valued having priority in the air cult over taking the coins, even, I think. And
then they use their power for workers.
Okay.
So yeah. So
that's surprising, but
the reason that makes sense a little bit to me, or it makes sense to me, is they're on the pass scroll that gives them a cult step, and so that will also get them now to the 4th step on air. Yeah. With that priest to the 3 step on air. And I imagine nomads here feel like they can steal one of these cults, can they just win one of these? And maybe they're trying to air is our cult. Let's see if we can win this.
Yeah. One. I think it makes sense to choose air. It gives you immediate bonus right now, and it doesn't give anything else after. So you can you could expect that the other 2 cult factions will try to focus on water and fire to max out their rewards, and then nomads can just subtly and silently just slide up the air.
Hopefully everyone else leaves it alone then. Yeah. That's funny. You're a stealthy player. Like to come up with these.
I try to think about different strategies, but
I'm just messing with you.
I'm trying to reveal my strategy for our upcoming games.
Yeah, no, I'm on to you. I've studied your play. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, so
Sanctuary comes down, right, for Swarmlings.
Yeah, let's see. And they go air 1.
Yeah, that extra work here.
They want that's so interesting. So he's going to get, which is also it's a tweener. It's a scoring plus an extra worker kind of move.
Yeah, exactly. And you only lose like 1 point in comparison to Water 1, and you actually get the point later when you have 4 TPs up on the map. So it's kind of the same scoring wise for them. But taking Water 1 denies it from another player. So that's the other
true
thing to consider.
True, but my guess is he wants that worker off air cult. And no, it's a great point. And just in case anyone's not familiar, right? So the Swarmling Stronghold gives you the free TP every round. So Danny, you were just counting that 1 free P every round and saying if you have Water 1, that's 3 points. With Air 1, that one, you pass onto points. And if you only have 1 TP out, it's 2 points. It's 3 points for 2 or 3, and then 4 points if you have 4. And so you're only costing yourself 1 point this round to get an extra worker. And then it'll be about break even, if not better, down the road. And I think everyone would give up 1 point for a worker right now.
Yeah. I mean, people give up 2 points for 1 power.
Exactly.
So I think that's a sensible option, definitely. The only thing is Water 1, it's a coveted favor for most of these other factions as well. So maybe there's going to be less pressure on that, which might influence how these players now adjust their game plans here.
Mm-hmm.
So I think with the trading post from Nomads, I think we expect a stronghold. I think so, but I might be wrong.
So we see, by the way, so Nomads lost Earth 1 as Oren got Earth 1 on the stronghold.
Yep. They don't seem too bothered by that. I think they planned for it when they put the priest into air. So it's going to be interesting to see how it turns out for them.
Well, they were resigned. We'll see if their score gets bothered.
Yep, exactly. That's a nice way to put it.
But I do really especially on a map that's so cut up with water, it's so nice to see towns, easy towns without needing bridges. And Nomads for sure have that in the middle brewing. Yeah. Oh, and you'll be happy. Your stronghold, your Nomad stronghold is ready.
Yep. Yep, I'm. Which is, I think it's a good move. I think a sanctuary with Earth 1 would have been also a viable line, but it's totally another direction. But yeah, I'm not sure about the placement of that stronghold. I think I would have rather preferred it up north, perhaps, rather than on in the center. But that's just.
I mean, that means they're less likely to take fire too.
Yeah.
Sandstorm. Do you think? I'm guessing this is going to go on the gray in the northwest, but maybe I'm wrong about that. Just because that then gets to a yellow across the water with one ship.
Or maybe they're going to try to erase Oren for the eastern connection. That might be another option as well.
To the gray.
To the
Sandstorm.
gray.
Yeah, the brown is a single dig for yellow, so you kind of. Mm-hmm. But I suppose they could. Yeah, no, you're right. They definitely could. That would be a really bad news for Oren, which is maybe a reason to do it.
Yeah, but it's also good for the connection, right? Nomads, because the center red, even though it's a red, Darklings can still take it eventually with their million priests, right? So I think you have to connect through the east for nomads.
Yeah.
So it would be aggressive, but not in a bad way. I think it would be just it's good for them as well.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's fair. No, that's definitely fair. The Darklings, I mean, yeah, Darklings they're like done getting leech, I guess. I guess eventually that will be a sanctuary in the middle, but like otherwise.
I think Darklings are really hoping that you're right about the sandstorm.
Yeah.
the nomad sandstorm location. I think they would really favor that.
On the other hand, their economy is very strong now. Right. Yeah. Like they have Fire 1. They're going to get, 4 worker income. They have Earth 1. And they've already passed Brazil on points. This is the US, right? Like, so.
Yep. And they were really.
I would be pretty nervous if I was.
Team
I'd have to. I just think I'd rather be in the Darklings position at this point, although maybe I'm wrong.
There's an argument to be made also about like Darklings. What do they need power for? Like it's honestly, it's mainly coins, right? It's mainly coins actions and the occasional priest, right? You don't need the single dig. Sometimes the workers, right, early on, but after in the mid game, you don't really need the workers anymore. And so if they got the coins set out properly, which it seems like they do with that Fire 1, and they're sitting on 11 coins right now. So I think you don't really care as much as being shut out of Leech than other factions maybe.
Annie, something super interesting just happened.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
No, sorry.
Oren double dug the red on the diagonal next to nomads for exactly. I think they were worried about disruption coming from that side potentially.
Wow. Okay, that's pretty sweet. I like this.
Is that what that is? It's kind of preventative, right?
I think it's yeah, exactly. I think because they which is good. I think because nomads were just gonna slice through that diagonal. I think because their connection is so much easier when you go up that path than try to loop around the other way, right, through the west. So yeah,
it's interesting. Yeah. If nomad, we'll see. We're gonna see right now, I think, how nomads respond to that unless they take their cult step on air. But there's a world where they basically single dig. Okay.
They just carry on with the pressure. So now sure. I guess that.
Well, no, Oren are pretty fine. I was actually wondering if they were gonna. I think this is fine. Oren are pretty happy now because they can get that gray and blue.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I was just kind of curious how antagonistic nomads were feeling if they would use a single dig power action onto a sandstorm on the gray in the middle. But something like that could really set back Oren.
Mm-hmm.
But,
that's true.
Looks like they're playing nice.
Yeah, it didn't happen. Thankfully for Oren. It's really that it's a double dig for Oren. They pay 1 dig extra, right? Because they don't need 4 digs for that town. Like you could just go on the gray and the blue and the other gray, but it really goes to show how much the stronghold puts pressure, the nomads stronghold puts pressure on the map and forces opponents to do these inefficient plays. Like they just lost a dig technically, right? The Orange team. So and I think that has a tremendous value as in especially in these competitive games.
Yeah, and it strikes me as I'm kind of curious what Team Asia was like. What they were weighing. I guess they viewed that as too much downside risk to let go. I mean, I also noticed. So we see a couple factions passing now. So Darklings passed onto the ship point scroll. So I think everyone should have their eyes on this dwelling scoring. Round 4 is going to be a massive round for points. I think. People are building pretty big economies, and that's a really nice. That's just a really nicely timed round. So I'd be kind of curious to what extent Darklings actually increase ship in round 3 just for points, and then because they want one ship anyway at least. Yeah, right? Probably. And so
one ship to what extent?
It'll be interesting trade-off for them to figure out how much we're gonna increase ship. How much do we increase ship, and then how much do we build in round 3 versus save for round 4? Those are the kinds of micro decisions that can be really tough in Terra Mystica.
Yeah, and we were talking about how Darklings are sitting on a comfortable pile of coins right now, but 2 ships upgrade and it's suddenly you don't have that many coins, right? So So it's going to be the trade-off between upgrading ships or digging more naturally with your priests is going to be interesting. But one ship, I think we can all pretty much 100% expect that. And it looks also like Swarmlings will get the jump on the first down in the game. I mean,
interesting.
That's no surprise, I think, given their Swarmlings, right? It's just the things that they do. Yeah,
and so if they do take, I mean, and I think you're alluding to them taking the Tukey town. Is that
probably? Maybe Jivok will impress us with another play. It's possible, right?
Yeah. So we're in round 3 now.
Yeah.
So we'll see to what extent this is a gear up round for round 4 versus people trying to expand this round. Oren snagged that dig scroll that was sitting there, which is nice for them. I suspect they're going to try to protect that town on the diagonal, given what we saw recently.
That real estate that they've just heavily invested in.
Exactly.
And I think Team USA will, which is why also we were talking about the third round in the setup in the start before the game, and how maybe people don't build a temple there. Maybe you increase your digs or your ships to be able to abuse the 4th round. But it looks like maybe Team USA wants to build a temple, perhaps because they've just built a TP. So
did you see? Interesting. Team USA is sitting on 4 power in bowl 3.
Yeah,
don't use it, and they go TP. Which is unusual, but makes me think that they still want to use that power for a power action. So maybe they're still.
Maybe what that tells me also is that they want to have it the quickest round possible and to pass on the dwelling bonus point style. I think that's also a probability.
Yeah, although I would have thought they would convert 1 then.
Maybe they're not expecting leech, right? This round, probably
0 leech. It's possible, yeah.
And the only people that can give them leech is probably nomads, right? And nomads are probably more busy fighting in the southeast part of the map with Oren, maybe.
It's fascinating though, right? To start a round fully, like all your power in bowl 3 and choose to just ride the entire round like that.
Yeah, I think, but I mean, when you think about it, it's just, you cannot say it's round 3 and 4, right? And for Darklings, it's either one of them that you get the 7 coins.
I totally agree. I don't think it's a bad move. Yeah, no, I just think it's unusual.
It's really unusual. It really is. It really is.
No, and this is where, again, these top players, I'm sure you do this too, right? The second the round starts, you look to see what's sitting there available, and that dwelling scroll sitting there about now with economies booming, the dwelling scroll sitting there going into a dwelling round, it's so good to pass on to that and be able to take coins at the start of next round. So I think that's totally the right way of thinking about it, which is, do we want the coins this round or should we just take it next round? Which makes it a little less painful to pass on it. Yeah.
And we'll see if that works out for them. We'll see if they'll because I think that Team USA strategy hinges on the fact that they are expected to have the fastest round. So we'll see if that's and I think it's reasonable. Swarmlings have their TP action, Nomads have their stronghold action, and Orin also have their stronghold action. So it's possible that they get away with it. Yeah.
So I think we now officially know that Swarmlings are going small footprint.
Yeah.
Because now they're hoarding these scoring tiles. They are going to they're going to score a bit with Earth One anyway, having taken it, but it appears that it was more of a denial to Nomads in the end, rather than some kind of grand economic attack.
Yeah. I think maybe it's because they plan to have 3 favors by round 3. I think they planned the third temple, and so they figured, why not just take all the scoring favors, right?
Oh no, I think that's fair. Yeah, I think given that, I think it's the right move if that's how you want to play. So we see Swarmlings put a little pressure on, or Nomads. Here's your favorite action, the Sandstorm, putting some pressure on green here, and I would think we're gonna see that Spade going on the blue.
Yeah.
From.
Yeah, probably. There's no rush right now, but eventually in that round for sure. Yeah. And Team USA actually gets left out of Water 1. That's also interesting. Even I think they were hoping to race for it with that trading post. I think that was the real reason.
Yeah.
More than having a quick round, because they ended up taking the coins after they lost Water 1. So.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. Now, we should note that the only team bearing the cost of the Nomad stronghold pressure is Orin.
Right now,
which I think is...
As of now, yeah. Yeah, that's the only...
Yeah.
Which...
I honestly don't see... It's going to be a while till they pressure anybody else. And so I think Orin are kind of taking not undue, but disproportional, right? Heat from Nomads, and it's going to affect their gameplay in awkward ways potentially.
Yeah, they're at the wrong place at the wrong time, as
I
might say it. But yeah, even I don't really see Nomads pressuring it. Yeah, you're right, because Swarmlings have their own, they do their own thing in the West. Darklings are isolated from anyone basically right now as it stands. So even if Nomads wanted to hit another faction, I don't think they're in a position to do that.
Yeah, I don't think Team Asia's will be thrilled with this.
Which is also maybe it goes back to the format of the tournament, because maybe people are more encouraged to play it safe rather than play it. And so in a way, the Nomad's stronghold is kind of safe if you target another faction, because you can just get third place and assassinate one of the other factions and still maintain a decent score. So maybe that's a strategy. I don't know.
Well, I don't think that was what they set out to do. I mean, I think the Brazilians strike me as extremely proud, and I think they'll do nothing less than play for first place. And they're good, right? I mean, so I think they should play for first place. But it's been really interesting. So I know some of the so my wife is on Team Asia, is Jekyll, and so I've been kind of getting the inside scoop a little bit, and I think they have super cool camaraderie. That's been really fun, and I think one of the cool things about this tournament is people kind of know each other a little bit here and there, but actually kind of talking through game planning and playing together while discussing moves. And I think it's been very cool for them to get to know each other, especially being from different countries and stuff, banding together. And they have a really cool team spirit that's been fun.
Yeah, I can say the same for us over at Team Canada. I think it's exactly what you've just described. There's a difference between playing competitively with each other and playing in a collaborative way, right? On this game, so it's a totally different thing. You know, usually you play against each other, but now you play together against another group of people. So there's like this whole feeling of group thinking and group bonding that is pretty nice. Yep.
Yeah, and you know, I think it is also a test of, you know, some people, particularly in the board game world, sometimes lack certain interpersonal skills. And so I think, you know, to make this work, and now I've been really pleasantly surprised by the Terra Mystica community being generally quite cool and positive. I mean, everybody has their moments, right? But like constructive. And so like you know, by all accounts, you know, these teams have really worked well together. I just think like when you're taking 2, 3 of the, you know, 4 of the top players in a game and putting them in one seat, you could easily imagine there being conflict and disagreement. But it sounds like everybody's really taken it with a great spirit, which is fun.
Well, I think also, you know, Terra Mystica is a game that is rewarded by thinking outside of the box often. Like oftentimes you don't, like there is some sort of like of a set in stone way of playing the game, especially on base map with like on some would call it the Snellman meta, right? The classic color factions and such. But I think in a competitive live action, maybe like one of the other players can think a strategy that supposedly the top player might have not thought about it. So I think that has a lot of value as well. So yeah.
Oh, I mean, undoubtedly. I mean, when you play live, like, I mean, as we've seen, right? This is part of the Fire 2 tournament series, and any viewers who haven't checked out some of the Fire 2 tournaments, they're awesome. Check them out on YouTube. So past kind of one-on-one, I don't know if that's the right way of saying that. Normal board gaming where 4 people play, you know, everyone plays for themselves. Really cool tournaments. But I mean, what you see all the time is, of course, like the top players, people like Nerdcube, Rainier, like by their own admission, they make mistakes in those games. And so to say that they couldn't benefit from conversations with others, they would disagree with that out of hand.
They'd be the first to disagree with that, actually. So
I think we have an empirical case. So yeah.
So Darklings grabbed the Earth 2 favor here. It's a small consolation prize, right, for not getting Water 1, I think. But what do you think about that?
That is really interesting. So and like you said, Swarmling's got the 2 key town, 2 steps on each cult. Darklings going Earth 2 is really surprising, right? Like, I just think when people play on autopilot, they don't take economic favors later. I think it's one thing that I think is a little bit underrated aspect of that move is they clearly have decided that they want to win Earth. Yeah. They know they're not going to win any of the other cults. You know, I think they'd be surprised if they even get, you know, third, definitely second, I think is like almost out of the question. So I think that part of this move is let's make sure we win the Earth. The other thing that this makes that they strikes me is they decided, right, they're going to do all their expansion next round in the dwelling round. So let's just get that one little extra, right? They only have 2 dwellings down going into round 4. That's not a lot. So I do think this just gives them a tiny bit more juice. So I really like this.
I think it's a correct call as well for them.
Yeah, I think it's really, really smart. I mean, I actually don't think they had good alternatives. So it's not like, I don't think there was something that they didn't do that was
exactly
attractive. But you know, they'll probably increase. They've increased ship once, so they're probably thinking about whether or not to increase ship again or whether to pass. Right? I think that's what they're thinking about.
I think now that the dwelling tile is gone, nomads grabbed that as quickly as they could, I think. Maybe they could have thought about raising ships for greeding more points, but it seems that they decide against that.
Okay.
They pass.
Yeah. No, that's fair. Now they'll have, you know, they'll also have, they don't really need more than 1 ship, right? And now they'll have, you know, that 1 additional priest. And they also pass on to the priest scroll, so they're going to dig like crazy next round. Which
it's going to be a big fest.
Yeah, exactly. So they're going to have a monster round. I'm actually, it's clutch for Team Brazil that they were able to pass on to that dwelling scroll, because I find that's often a little bit of a saving grace when you pass on Earth 1. But there's these kind of key, if you can be the more economically oriented faction here, the one who at least didn't get Earth 1, let's say, that hitting that scroll at least makes up for a lot of the difference for key rounds if you can really time your expansion for those rounds. So I really like that move for them. I think that's going to really kind of help them stay in play here.
And they look like, they pass first and they have enough power to take the coins, right, the first round. So I guess it's ship upgrades. Then you have 2 immediate yellow hexes that are within 1 ship, and then you only need a dig or a sandstorm to open up 2 more. So I think that's they're gonna have no trouble placing all their dwellings. I would be surprised if they don't do that. So
Team Brazil back in the game. Is that what we're saying? I think so. Let's go.
I mean, let's have something that I think now that they've secured this Eastern gray, which opens up their connection. I think their connection is pretty safe.
Yeah.
Now, so they should get 18 points. I think on connection this game. I don't see the other factions really beating them.
Oof.
So I think.
Oh yeah. I mean, geez. Maybe I would think Darklings will build a lot, but yeah. No, I would bet on them. I was never too worried about their connection. It just seemed like they have so many different ways to do it, like that. But I think that
with the stronghold, indeed, they have a lot of ways around that. Yeah. So
now Orin can finally exhale. Now that they've been holding their breath since the sandstorm went up. And I'd have to think they're not thrilled with how some of this played out. But, one thing that we need to monitor, of course, is the points lead, right? Because we can look at who's about to do big things. But, it matters that Team Europe and Asia are already at 47 and 45. Team Brazil's and, is about to make some big moves, as is the U.S. And here comes the U.S., right, with a triple dig right out of the gate.
Nice casual triple dig, just starting things, just
NBD.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Which is great.
It's 6 points. It's the easiest 6 points of your life, right? You just triple dig something. So
interestingly, and this is partly why I really thought Nomad should sandstorm that gray at some point, is the town there is a little bit is impossible now. They're not going to do a town.
Yeah, there. I think the towns is one center, one on that southern part of the diagonal stretch, and either one up top in the north or south, depending on how Oren or Swarm.
True. It's not that big a deal. No, you're right. Right. It's not that big a deal, but it's a little bit. It struck me as kind of an opportunity. Yep. It gets a little bit harder to get to those northwestern yellows. I don't know. It's not a big deal, but I kind of.
The Darklings can get a bit more territory that way for their town. But I think there was some. It's a matter of who nomads decide to target, right? You cannot target everyone with.
Yeah, and it's not. I really don't think it would have. I guess Darklings are quite happy because this way they don't need a bridge. Not that would have been the end of the world, but yeah. So let's see. So how is this kicked off here? We see.
So Swarmlings raised their ships, which makes sense. I think they want to try to populate the north. That would be my guess for them this round. They don't look like they'll be able to upgrade digs. So I guess they're just going to take a single dig or just a regular hard dig, is what I'm guessing.
Mm-hmm.
Nomads did take the coins and upgraded ships, so I think that's the thing we're going to see.
Mm-hmm.
And Darklings, will just probably build all of their dwellings, the highest amount possible of dwellings, I think, this round. So I think things are going smoothly for every one of these factions here. No big disruption in this round.
Yeah, although Darklings can only do how many more? I guess they still have 2 more dig. They only have 2 more workers though.
Yeah.
So that's the slight cost to using those 3 digs on the gray. They can't. I guess that's irrelevant. Yeah, no, this is fine. They counted out their workers and they just decided this is enough.
They don't have enough workers anyways. So
yeah. That's interesting.
Which is, the cost of, which is a super argument for, that Earth 2 pickup, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we're seeing right now how crucial this extra worker is.
Yeah. Yeah. It'll be interesting. I mean, one thing Darklings can run into is they may have trouble with TP stuff, right? Like right now, they only have one location. I think we're going to see a triple dig on the red, the center red that's next to the Swarmling stronghold. Yeah, so that will be, I think, a natural TP spot, unless I'm wrong. But I feel like they'll want to make a bridge town there. Yeah. But they're not super well set up for building trading posts, as opposed to, Orin and Nomads can feed each other in the south and the diagonal really nicely. So we'll see. It's something to keep an eye on, how that then affects kind of the next couple of rounds.
They have to find maybe some other ways to score in the last rounds, because it's looking, especially without Water 1, it's looking a bit. I not want to say grim, but it's not looking as pretty as it is for the other three factions.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
They're Darklings, so
I'm not too worried.
Fine. I mean, there's a possibility of like going down to the G4 area, maybe in the center, and maybe you can find Orin there as neighbors or nomads. So that might be a shot at getting neighbors. Yeah. So
we see a little bit of jostling here for Water Cult, right? Like, so 3 of the cults seem to be, I want to call them, maybe that's premature, but I think 3 are settled for who's going to win, and Water's a little bit up in the air. And I think neither of those factions are super concerned, but it's, I think, something that they're looking at. The other thing that'll be interesting here is Swarmlings are, they're going to score a lot on this pass scroll that they have, the ship scroll. And so, well, they scored with everything that they do, because they've done nothing but pick up scoring tools.
Yeah, exactly.
But, so they're increasing ship, and it'll be really interesting to see if they're able to pass on to the ship scroll again for round 6, or the big building scroll. And because there's really only 2, their scoring is so limited. And so we'll see. I feel like that some other teams could play a little defense. Actually,
I think Swarmlings are maybe trying to have like the longest round possible right now, in order to have like a super quick round, in order to outstyle everyone. So when they pass, they leave the ship tile open, and then they jump straight back on it in the 5th round for the final round. Yeah, I think that's. I love doing that as Swarmlings too. Like, to figure out when to play fast, when to play slow, and there's something really nice about passing last, so that will be available next round. And usually Swarmlings have a natural ability, right? They tend to have more actions than most factions.
Oh, this we did not see coming.
Okay. Okay, that's interesting. I like that.
Wow.
All right. Well, it looks like
that was a 4-power dig.
That was a 4-power dig, indeed. Yeah.
Interesting.
So it looks like their other town is maybe is there a world where? No, I was saying, is there a world where they triple dig the center red somehow, if Darklings don't jump on it and bridge for a town with their stronghold? But that's too.
They're pretty far, just because they don't have dig increases. If they had digs increased, I totally think that's in play. I just feel like there's so many moves away from that. We'll see.
It looks like we have Lizzie again for us, reporting on the sidelines.
Yes, I was just talking to Team USA. Obviously, I am a few minutes behind whenever I talk to them, so I'm not going to be able to comment on the gray hex that they just dug.
No.
But I was able to ask them about missing the Water 1 rush. So they said they were a little disappointed that they missed the Water 1 rush. They were hoping to tempt another team to take the coins, which ended up not happening. They also said that it wasn't worth it earlier in the game to take Water 1, so that's why they hadn't taken it yet.
Okay.
So they were a little disappointed, but they said they're still happy with their game right now, so they're not sweating it at all.
Thanks so much, Lizzie. Interesting to hear that they're hoping that coin action could be dangled as bait for these other teams, and they didn't go for it.
Yeah, it didn't work out for them, unfortunately. I was able to talk to him about a few other things as well. So I just was asking sort of what was going on in the chat at that time. They were having an interesting chat about bridge pressure. They also said that their game plan overall, they were hoping to win the Earth Cult. And they are also hoping to get Air 1 eventually. Probably, they said around round 5.
Lizzie, do you agree with their strategies, or do you think it's a bunch of clowns over there?
I don't think I'm in a position to say that NerdCube is a clown.
I think you're in the perfect position to say that. Well, we know that I'm not surprised to hear that Team USA said that although they missed Water 1, they're supremely confident because they do nothing but talk about how they should be the favorite in this tournament. So,
right, exactly. I don't think anything can shake Team USA's confidence, to be honest. So a few other things they said. They said that actually not getting Water 1 does alleviate some pressure to make trading posts right now. So they're looking on the bright side of that one, which I'm not sure if that's really
bright side.
I'm not really sure if that's really bright side, but I guess it leaves them some room to do some other things.
Yeah, I guess, when one door closes, the another one opens, right?
Exactly. I also asked them about possible concerns about the lack of neighbors next to their structures in the Northwest. I had noticed there's not many people over there, just that one little nomad's dwelling over there. And apparently, Team USA has not even talked about that at all. So I guess they're not worried.
Mein Gott. Okay, we'll see how this plays out. Thanks so much, Lizzie. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Super interesting to have this insight on what the players are thinking and what the teams are.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah.
How they're reacting to all these moves. It's so nice.
Exactly. And those of you who don't know, that's LizzytheLlama. It's a kind of instant legend in the Terra Mystica community due to some hilarious posts. And she wrote a great post about each of these teams being represented by an animal and predicting who's going to win this tournament based on a battle between the animals. I was on the edge of my seat as I read the whole thing. It was hilarious. So thanks, Lizzie, for that as well.
Now I know that jaguars kill their prey by crushing their skulls, which is pretty impressive. I wouldn't have expected that.
Oh man! So here we go. So that water cult is still hanging out there as these teams focus on expanding. I think it's really interesting that Swarmlings chose to go to the south there.
Yeah.
I guess I'm so used to seeing them go to the northeast that I didn't really think about it, but I think it makes total sense. I think it's fine, right?
Yeah, exactly. It puts pressure on Darklings might want that stretch of land for themselves, right? Eventually. And Orin, the green faction, also really likes that hex F3 and all the access that it gives to the west part of the map. So I think taking that is really it's a strong tactical move from Swarmlings here.
So we see, as you predicted, right? So in the south, nomads are using that sandstorm so that it's kind of 2 yellow hexes for 1 sandstorm. So setting up down there, I think they'll be quite disappointed if they don't get a neighbor for that stretch down there, because I think they clearly want to do a town in that neighborhood. Nomads have a lot of points coming. I mean, it has to be said.
They're passing for 8 this round. They're set up for a lot of trading posts, right? In the rounds 5 and 6, they have Water 1. Probably have network also.
Yeah, I think they're better set up to leverage round 5 and 6 than other factions, but they're so far behind that they've got to be keep the faith, right? It's funny how different. Sorry, go ahead.
They don't have a town yet. That's the only thing. Everybody, I think, almost everybody has a town except Darklings. Darklings don't have a town yet as well.
Right. So
but they must keep the faith as you.
Yeah, keep the faith.
So
well, and it's easily a 3-town game for them. That's the other thing, right? Like, so it's you know, whereas most of these others will only do 2 towns.
If that dwelling was, that northern dwelling that they placed initially near the Darklings northern town, if that was elsewhere, maybe you could look at a 4-town game for Nomads, maybe. And
it's not. Yeah, I mean, it's funny because no, that's right. I mean, it would be. Well, that's always fun. Yeah, you say that because like the 3 towns are like almost set up already.
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
And also the other fact that prevents the 4th town is having both big buildings in the same town. I think usually it's a bit harder to do 4 towns if both of your 3 power structures contribute to only a single town. But towns I think is a given here for Nomads.
We see Team Asia now use their steps to get to the 9 spot on water.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a little staring contest here on the water call.
Yeah, definitely.
Which is interesting. I mean, they actually, if they had taken, I mean, again, it's not end all be all, but it is something to monitor as both. Okay, they have water too. Okay, yeah, fair enough. So they're going to close it out here. That's pretty clutch for Oren. I think they would be
that's a good victory. I think that's a good that's a good break for them. Well, it's not a break because they caused it, but I mean it's a good move for them to have at least that water cult secured. And it looks like Swarmlings will probably win air, and maybe they'll be able to put some pressure on Earth, perhaps, because there's still 3 priest spots left open. And I think Darklings want to dig rather than send priest, especially this late in the game. So I could see Swarmling winning air and air and Earth here, I think, and probably maybe fire if Orin are a bit slow on that.
You think Swarmlings could steal Earth?
I think so. I think Darklings they need to form a town before, and Orin only have 1 key. So I think Swarmlings for sure have air and either fire or Earth. I think in that game, one of the 2, if not both.
Mm-hmm.
That's my prognostic, but I might be as always. I might be totally wrong and totally off base.
Well, it's funny how all these teams are hoping for the opportunity to grab one of the scoring scrolls for next round. And so in contrast to last round where, I think Nomads passed, super quickly onto the dwelling scroll, here everybody's, twiddling their thumbs, dawdling, trying to wait it out to see what they can get.
Value of water too, right? It's another action for Orange.
It's a great point. Yeah.
And then they have like a lot of power, so they can even take a priest if they want to delay that much. So that's smartly played.
Yep. We see Swarmlings are now fully teched up on shipping. They've used their TP action, so they're out of moves as of now. So Swarmlings will pass next for sure, unless they get some power, which would enable them to. I guess they could. No, that's it. So someone could take a priest power action potentially to try to delay. Although the only person that could do that is Team Asia as of now.
And interestingly, Team Asia uses the cult bump to. They don't secure water right away, right? They go up to the 8th spot in fire, so they want.
Wow.
Well, the only way Swarmlings get a jump on them is if they build a temple for water 3, right? Am I right? Like the only way Swarmlings grab water before Orin here is if they go for a temple. In the
next round, yeah. I mean, they could take water 2 or water 3.
Exactly, water 2 or water 3.
Yeah. No, that's right.
I think they deemed it Team Asia deemed it less probable that this scenario happens, so they They want to get a bang out of their buck for the fire cult here.
Yeah, right. So now they're getting 8 power off the cult. So they have 11 power income, which just completely reloads them.
Mm-hmm. So Swarmlings passed, and they're already sitting at 77 points, right? So as we were talking about earlier, Swarmlings, they're just unfair. Am I right?
Yeah, no, that's right. They're just totally unfair, like overpowered. Like frustratingly so.
And they're still sitting on 2 dig upgrades, right? They didn't upgrade their digs yet, so you can count 12 points more on that over that, right? Yep. So that's pretty. That looks pretty impressive.
And while they're not dominating the cults, they're definitely going to get a nice share of cult points. So no, that's right. And then I think the key will be, can they hit building or ship scroll for round 6?
Yeah, I think that's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, no, it really will be. And so we see Darklings having to pass first, and then Swarmlings taking the dig scroll. So now the ship scroll is sitting there. So only two fat teams will have scoring pass scrolls for round 5, and there will be at least one scoring scroll floating going into round 6. Will be interesting to watch.
Yep. And I think, given the order of players, the order that players have passed here, I think it's going to be tough for Swarmlings to get a jump on the big bonus style, I think. Because whoever ends up taking it is going to play two rounds after them. So usually if you want to try to pass for something, you want to try to set it up so you play immediately after the player that is owing the bonus style. And given everybody will want that, I think it's unlikely that Swarmlings get unless it's just open right now, right? So they just need to play quickly and then they can get it. But yeah.
Well, that's even better.
That would be the other possibility. Exactly. If then why not?
Take it all back. I mean, this is where, we could see something, depending on how this goes and how focused that they are on that. It's not actually impossible that they don't even use their dig on their dig scroll to make sure they pass on to it.
Yeah.
Don't think that will happen, but I don't think it's that crazy actually.
I think once I passed on building my TP just to get it. It was probably wrong. Once I passed on getting my free action as Swarmlings just to get these 8 points. But it's probably wrong. Yeah, it's sure wrong.
You can't do that. Just like they have water 1, air 1, and it's a TP round.
No. Here it's unthinkable here.
Okay, got it. But you were saying there was a time when you. Yeah, no, I think that's fair.
The appeal of that bonus style is so strong that you might even consider that at times. That's what I was trying to say.
And there are some games where sometimes Terra Mystica narrows you an incredible extent. Like if you miss out on certain scoring favors or the nature of the track and the nature of the pass scrolls, where like you look at it and you're like, there are really only 2 avenues for me to score in the last round, and I have to make sure I have those. And so I'm assuming that's what you're alluding to. It's like that kind of laser focus. Yeah.
And sometimes, as we mentioned earlier, it's a kind of a butterfly effect, because sometimes if you don't pass at the appropriate time, then you lose out tempo, and that means that you don't pass again at the appropriate time in the following rounds. And from like one little mistake and like something, a calamity can just arise. And so it's important.
Yeah. Tempo. Oh yeah. So it's interesting to see Swarmlings double dig the brown. You see that in the south?
Yeah, I think it's safe, because if you double dig the gray, you kind of feel the need to place the dwelling that is next to it, right, on the blue. And given that you want to have a quick round, and you have 2 spades at the end of the round for cult income, so why not just take the safe route here?
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. That they're also giving yellow nomads a little bit less of a neighbor.
That's
So I guess the nomads will dig the red, just go horizontally along there, and they'll have enough neighbors. But no, I think that's an interesting move.
Yeah, I think it's usually you would be inclined to dig the spot that opens up another free native hex, but I think in that case it's not. That is the correct move, digging the brown here. I think.
No, and Swarmlings, resource efficiency, they're not too worried about it. Oh man. So we do see, Darklings have triple dug that red, right, to set up the bridge town, which is what you were looking at since the auction or whatever.
I guess the bridge is coming down right now, unless they're trying to delay it for some reason. But I mean, they have the power right now, so
yeah. In Brazil, they're on the ship scroll. They need to get to 3 ship to connect, unless they're going to dig that brown in the east next to Swarmlings. They need 3 ships. So, this is a good time for them to be increasing their shipping.
Yeah, I think they're 1 piece short from the 3 ships, but maybe they get it through a town, right? A priest town or a ship town. That's it. That is really possible.
That's true.
And
so it's interesting to try to figure out what the score, what like points. See, because some of these, like you were counting the towns to come, are sort of like points in hand.
Kind of,
just
like cards that exactly. You haven't shown them yet, but they're
so we see, again, everybody's chasing Swarmlings here, and this is kind of the nature of the beast.
Yeah.
And it's just ridiculous how robust this faction is. But we'll see. Maybe we're underestimating potential of Anoran or Nomads here to close the gap. But it is scary to see a 30-point gap. That said, they're for Nomads, for example, if we count them as winning network, I'm gonna already give them credit for network, which is pretty reasonable. That's 18 point. Closing the gap by 18 points already on Swarmlings, because Swarmlings will not get any points on network.
Maybe it depends I'm pretty sure Team Asia will connect with Orange here, right? They'll end up going up 3 ships, but Orange don't have a lot of expansion left. When you really look about it, it's unclear how many more structures they can actually put down.
Yeah, but Swarmlings aren't connected, so
but
so. Orin, as long as they get to 3 ship, I think they'll get 3rd. I think we're looking at Nomads first, Darklings second, Orin 3rd on network, unless Orin get stuck in some situation where they don't think it's worth it to increase ship to 3.
Exactly, that would be the only case, I think.
Yeah. In which case, it'll be like a battle by paper cut for the 6 points to get 3rd on network.
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever the phrase is, like a spoon fight to get the 6 points. Is that a phrase? I think a spoon fight is a thing.
I'm not aware of that expression, but it makes sense. I can see it.
I'm painting a picture. Thank you.
It's pretty clear in my mind how a spoon fight would look like. And it looks like, Oren just passed on the big building tab, right?
Yeah. Interesting.
So Swarmlings actually dug the black one. They could have just passed before that. They did everything that they wanted to. So,
I mean, it'll be a saving grace for them if they somehow can
pass on the ship one.
They desperately want that. I'm trying to count actions right now to figure out how feasible that is. They do have 3 priests that they can, putz around with to delay.
And it looks like Team USA, because the passing order would suggest that if Team Brazil ever passes and Team USA is still in play, I guess Team USA would pass immediately for that ship score. But it looks like Team USA doesn't have a lot of stuff to do.
Exactly. So at which point, unless Europe just says screw it and passes anyway, it's a question of whether Brazil wants to try to deny them. But I'll be very curious to see how this goes.
but there's also the dwelling bonus for Team USA that's open, right? So that might be something that they're interested in as well.
Oh no, yeah. Team USA, I think I think the question is whether Brazil will relinquish the ship scroll.
Yeah, exactly.
But
and I think that's why also seeing Team USA's game now, we were talking earlier about the move on the gray hex, the triple dig the hex, and you said that it alleviates bridge pressure. Well, I think it's really important here because they already were planning on having one bridge down, right? So getting one bridge is always, it's not pleasant. You want to try to minimize the bridges that you take, and so it's nice to at least not need two bridges for a game.
Yeah, you don't want to compete with yourself for bridges and need too many.
Exactly. Especially on this
I think
map.
On a Zora stream, we coined the phrase, if you do 3 bridge towns in one game, I think it's bowling a turkey. That's officially a Terra Mystica term now. So if you can do 3 bridge towns, which is not actually something to aspire to in one game, congratulations, you've bowled a turkey.
Oh, that's an expression. I think that's a super.
Yeah, it's 3 strikes in a row in bowling, I think. Yeah.
No, it's not something you want to aim for. Unless you're trying to make it into the cool towns thread, right?
Exactly.
The only acceptable justification.
So Orin at least have guaranteed themselves. So Team Asia's guaranteed themselves 8 points on the pass scroll without having to do anything, which is really nice. And it will be, so I think we're going to see that coin power action first move, just because they are so out of balance. Typically you look for about 2 coins for every worker. I think we're going to see a coin action from them, and then I'm guessing we'll just see as many TPs as they can muster.
Yeah, exactly. I think maximize the TPs, and in between that, calculating if it's worth to connect, right? This game, if it's worth to go up to 3 ships in order to get those 6 points, because which is why even though they're gonna have a lot of coins, you still it's kind of expensive. You need 8 coins, upgrade shipping twice, and then with all the TPs that you're gonna build, but they should have no problem, I think, achieving all of that. So.
Well, and the question is, can you just win it? A side question is, can you win without connecting 3rd place? Like, if this is a battle for 3rd place on network anyway.
I think maybe, right? Maybe you just dig a few extra spaces in the south.
Not impossible.
Yeah.
This is the kind of flexibility that I think you were alluding to, which is you kind of play it by ear to see if it's worth it.
Yeah, I think you just do your actions until there's like a point of no return where you have to decide, okay, do I get shipped? But they can do a lot of stuff before they have to face that music, I think.
Yeah. So actually there's 0 bridge pressure now. I don't think anyone wants a bridge unless I'm missing something for last round.
Right now I think everyone that wanted a bridge, I think, got one. So that's pretty good for the individual parties.
Yeah. And Darklings will just kind of sledgehammer their way to some adjacency for right? Like,
that's a great term. I really like that. Sledgehammer their way.
Yeah. Well, they can be such a blunt object with their internally producing digs that when we kind of quote unquote get worried about their adjacency for TPs, well, just like, all right, fine, I'll 3 worker dig this hex so that I can have adjacency. Yeah. It's just that they're so strong in that way.
Yeah. I think they can upgrade ship maybe once and grab those 2 blues in the south, or maybe just go straight for that red at a 1 ship distance. That can be possible. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, grabbing that red it will instantly town. It depends a little bit on how they want to play network as well. I guess I'm not doing much counting of buildings, but obviously, if you consolidate your digs to a single hex, it hurts your network.
Yeah, obviously.
But Yeah, interesting. Okay, so we saw Swarmlings pass onto the Dwelling Scroll, and Nomads now give up the Ship Scroll to nobody, which is yeah, it's good news for them. The bad news, of course, is they didn't get either of the other scoring scrolls.
Well, yeah, that's the downside. Yeah.
But yeah, I think certainly Darklings and Orin are thrilled that Swarmlings weren't able to pass on to the Ship Scroll.
Mm-hmm. I'm pretty and I actually maybe right now that Swarmlings are sitting on the bonus dwelling tiles and they have 2 digs. Maybe there's going to be more of a fight for network in the third place than we might have initially expected.
Mm-hmm.
Because Swarmlings are sitting on 3 ships and they have so many easy to dig hexes in the west, right?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's something to watch out for.
Yeah. This is the spoon fight.
Yeah, the spoon fight.
Everybody, hold on to your hats. We've got a spoon fight. This is edge of your seat stuff, folks. Yeah, and I think the plan for Nomads has really come together, right? Like not come together. This was the plan, right? Like this is exactly how they were hoping this would go. I think, which is you can pass on Earth 1. Make sure you get Water 1 at the key moment, hit these rounds pretty hard, and set up 3 towns without too much stress. And they've just kind of flawlessly eased into that.
Yeah, that's a strong execution. I think it was, and they had that idea. I think there was no hesitation. I think on their game plan. I think they followed that. Now, if that's the winning game plan or not, that's another question. But at least it does seems that like the communication is good because there was no like meandering about, or there was no fooling around, I think.
And it just feels like they mapped this out, right? Like they in the pregame chat, they during auction, probably not pregame, but in the early game conversation, I think they saw this line as feasible. So I mean, and you say that, but like they're at 81. They're only 9 back on Swarmlings now,
and they have 2 towns coming, right? So that's
towns coming, and calling it prematurely network win in hand. I don't think that's actually true, but if we hypothetically grant them the 18 points,
they're looking not so. Yeah, they're not looking so bad.
Oh yeah.
And sadly for Team USA or for Anywhere, maybe it's indeed a 2-town game, probably for Darkling. I don't see them getting another town. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but it would be very difficult.
Yeah, no, I think it would be surprising.
Yeah.
They have a boatload of resources. They do have 2 towns to score. Like, so it's 2 towns still to come.
Yeah.
So like they strike me as, and 1 cult win, which Nomads can't claim. We kind of failed to say that. So like Darklings, I think, are in very, very strong position. A cult win, let's give them second on network tentatively. That may not bear out. Maybe it's, let's not rule anything out. But just looking at where they are, they're not too far behind.
Indeed.
This is going to be down to the wire. Pretty exciting here.
But one thing now that I've just seen is that Team Europe just dug out the yellow hex that was left open by Nomads with one of their cults fate. So that's a slight that's a slight hit for Team Brazil here.
Yeah, because they need a sandstorm for the town on the southern part of the diagonal, and then they need 1 more hex. And so now they need to find a way to either 3-worker dig or power dig.
Exactly. So
interesting.
That's kind of a little hit for Team Brazil here, but it's not too dramatic. I think they can still recover from that. But
shots fired, though. That's this is a multi-round game. Brazil's got a long memory. They'll remember this, Team Europe. Careful.
Yeah. Oh, that's true on the implications of targeting someone that early in that format of a tournament is there's some psychology, right, that goes into play here, probably.
Oh yeah, right. It's like the difference between a single round Prisoner's Dilemma and iterated multi-round Prisoner's Dilemma, where coordination is a lot more feasible. You want to be careful here. You want to play the long game. Don't discount the future.
Yep. That's a fair point that you're bringing about. Yeah. Couldn't agree more.
Especially the Brazilians. It strikes me as a spiky bunch. Although Melendor, I think he might be here today. He's self-proclaimed nice and polite, is what he had on his International Clash profile for what he's going to bring to the table, which I got a good laugh out of.
The other spikiness we don't
exactly to offset some of the brusque.
It's just a ruse. It's just a deceiving.
And I say it with affection, by the way, the spikiness. I feel like they wear that with pride, that approach to Terra Mystica.
So it looks like Nomads just secured Fire 2, which makes sense given their plan.
Yep.
And Team Asia hastily secures that hex in the north. You don't want to get as Chris Ho would say, you don't want to get sandblasted again too many times. Which I think is a much better terminology than sandstorm.
Sandblasted, yeah. So sandblasting is when it's targeting somebody, right? I like that.
Always called them that way, but
just always a sandblast.
Yeah, I think it speaks more to the nature of the action than sandstorm.
That's right. It certainly feels like a sandblast when it comes your way.
A storm is more, it's more kind of random. It's more of a random fashion than a blast.
Yeah. Asia was flush with workers, and so they did the 3-worker. They just did a 3-worker dig on that hex to secure it, which is sometimes can be painful. I'm curious how much the dig sets Nomads back. Like, I'd be curious, like that dig that Swarmlings did on their yellow. Like, what is it that they cannot do now? I guess they would have been able to do with the 3 workers.
Yeah, it's either 3
with 4 coins
or 4 coins. Like, it's one of the two, right? So, yeah, I'm curious as well because it looks like they already upgraded their ships, so that's taken care of. Maybe an extra trading post or an extra temple would have been possible if they got that free dig, perhaps.
So Orin can't be thrilled with the attack on fire that Nomads are executing on here.
Now when you get to that 7 spot in a cult, there's always the pressure of someone taking the 3-step favor to just rush it, especially end of game like that.
Yeah. Orin get that really nice 11-point town here, which I think I think they probably started to get a tiny bit worried that they weren't going to get a particularly lucrative town, but locking up that 11-point town there is sweet.
That and it gets you an extra key, so maybe you're in better position to fight that fight.
Exactly, because otherwise they need that key, because they could have done the 2-step by now on their stronghold. They're just waiting for the key to be able to do it.
Exactly. Yeah. So we'll see if Nomads do that temple or not. I would be surprised, but being surprised is a good thing also.
Yeah. So we still see the points lead for Swarmlings, and it feels like a really big gap to Orin from Swarmlings, given that Orin have their towns in hand already.
Yeah, and Orins do have a little bit of passing points here in their favor.
That's true.
Like these 8 points, but they're pretty equivalent in both cults, right? They're about the same. I think Swarmlings have even a little bit more. So yeah, Swarmlings are just looking so dangerously ahead. I mean,
yeah. Well, Darklings are right there. They're only 4 points behind them. So But the other thing that seems to be happening that you kind of predicted was Swarmlings putting a lot of pressure on Earth Cult, actually. And
yeah,
so now there's
I think once that Darklings don't they get nothing out of sending their priests to defend that Earth Cult. So it's a solid second place though. So I mean it's 4 points still. But yeah,
I suppose it's not impossible that they, if they can temple Earth 3 so that they can TP again, right? Like normally that is not a good move, but the fact that opens up another TP action potentially.
Here I think it's pretty, and I think usually you either want the air one or a 3-step, but here the 3-step favor is actually worth more points.
Oh, but you know what? The 3-step's gone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, well, that's interesting.
That settles it.
Yeah, which is and
exactly. Yeah,
Swarmlings did this on purpose, of course. So just catching up.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, Storming's in another temple regardless to use their action, right? Their TP action. So
they've done their TP action.
Oh, right. So they've built another trading post out of resources.
Yeah, maybe. I actually really like the look of this. Town they did, the 4 TP town.
I think all a lot of super nice, right? You have the circular one on the
that's the rounded edges. With symmetry.
And then you have like the all TP.
Yeah.
So I think that's some extra style points that they.
That is absolutely a style point. The aesthetic, and we appreciate the aesthetics here.
Oh yeah. I think Nurcube over on Team USA appreciates it as well, given that
he's a big fan of pretty towns.
I think hats off to Team Europe here for the
absolutely
performance, both the gameplay and the architecture sense of things.
Yeah, should be sort of these secondary awards at the end of the tournament where you get. Like most, coolest town, like most stylish win. Like if you did some kind of like really cool economic 4-town mermaids.
the digging cultist that we saw from Halai in the F2O. That was a pretty.
Exactly. There should be an award. There should be an award for that. Like most stylish performance, most stylish win or something.
And it looks like Nomads pick up that Fire 3, right? And they just outright steal Fire.
Yeah.
So
ouch.
That's a blow. That's a big hit for Team Asia here.
Yeah, it really is.
And if we look at network, Darklings are tied right now to Nomads when it comes to network. So they have a shot maybe and Nomads don't have a lot of resources left. So maybe that's where this dig comes in to hurt Nomads. That extra dig that they have to do. Maybe that's a factor that's going to be important here.
And this was the alternative line with Darklings. So they ended up they chose to do an expensive TP and keep their digging to be more efficient to compete on network.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
That's worth mentioning. Yep.
Yeah, those are tough decisions. Like that type of decision, I think is really, really hard because you're computing also the decisions of others because you're not sure where that line is. Like where is the line going to be for first and second on network, right? And you have to make some serious computations and predictions, and then decide. Because you don't want to do that expensive TP unless you've got a really good reason for it.
I think they have all of the team members at Team USA. They're at their pens and papers. I'm pretty sure everybody right now is holding a pen and some paper and doing some extensive math. I'll figure out the best lines and.
Yeah, I'm sure Rainier is thinking out loud. And the Sprockets and Nerd, given the others are writing it down. I like to tease Rainer about he's very talkative and communicative. It's good. It's a good thing.
It's a good thing.
He's a great caster, by the way. If anyone hasn't seen Rainier's stream, I think he's Rainier Games on Twitch. Definitely check it out. He's really, really good in helping explain why he makes the decisions he makes.
I think it's a good asset to have. It's a good attribute to have, right? When you're playing in that team context, I think it's nice to when you're able to clearly articulate what you're trying to say and what you're trying to communicate. So yeah, certainly an advantage here.
We're winding down to the kind of final throws here, and we'll see how Team Europe doesn't have a ton of resources left. We'll see what they choose to do with that.
Yeah, I guess maybe
big increase is coming.
Big increase, probably. That's they exactly have that, right? And then another piece probably to secure either air or earth, probably. Yeah. No passing points from which is ironic a bit. No passing points from the dwelling, from the dwelling bonus style, which is always funny.
Yeah, that is a little.
Which is maybe was a mistake taking it. I don't know. I don't recall what were the other options, but maybe it was to deny it to someone. I think that was the main.
The question is, what are you giving up? Right. And is there anything else that actually helps them? I think the answer is no. I don't think there really was anything that helps them very much. So I think they just decided, let's not let nomads get this. And maybe I get a point or two, depending on how things go.
Exactly. I think the other options would maybe have yielded 1 resource point, maybe 2 at best. But it's not enough to justify not blocking it, I think.
Right.
Yeah, and I think Team Asia here will try to probably do as much trading post as they can. I think they don't need to upgrade ships now to beat like they've won the spoon fight as I'll just keep calling it that right now.
Okay.
It's my new favorite expression.
Okay.
But yeah, they're at 6 connected structures, which is enough to beat.
Unless Swarmlings build on that blue in the west, which actually in that they have Earth 1
and the bonus style, right?
It's actually not crazy, but it's only 3 more points on networks.
They could build 2, right? They could build 2 dwellings.
I think they can only reach. Can they dig?
No, they're missing. Yeah, they don't have upgraded digs. Yeah, there's only 1 dwelling.
They only have 1 blue they can reach. But I think Oren got in a really kind of awkward spot, and I think losing out on the fire call is really kind of a bad. Again, not that there's really luck involved, because there is no luck, but a little bit of a bad break that played out in kind of the sequence where they were 1 move away from being able to close it.
Yep. I think the Oren had the plan of double. I understand why they double dug that red earlier in the game, but I think it came at a cost, right? It wasn't. It definitely wasn't their optimal plan. I think it's not. So they had to take a hit, I think, right from the start, and I think they've managed pretty well to actually salvage this and end up with a respectable score here. So we'll see if that's enough.
Danny, I know Team Canada is super confident, not scared of anyone, a little bit of trash talk, albeit very polite Canadian style trash talk.
We gotta stay true to our
How are you feeling now, kind of watching this and thinking a little bit, now that you're, witnessing the first game, how are you thinking a little bit about how this is going to go when you dive into action next week?
I'm honestly, I'm terrible at multitasking, so I haven't really thought about taking that into that perspective. Just trying to not say dumb stuff on the stream, which was my main priority. But it looks like people are keeping playtimes to a reasonable, except Team Brazil here. So I think the biggest challenge is going to be communication. I think, and I think. Maybe we can see if we get when we talk about the game with the winner or whatever, or just after the stream, we'll see how it went. But I'm curious to see how communication went for these for these 4 teams, because I think that's the really big challenge here. But yeah, it doesn't really alter my confidence in our ability as a team. I think we'll do our best, and hopefully that will be enough.
You're not intimidated by this Team USA performance? I thought you'd be shaking in your boots now. I'm just kidding.
Maybe I am.
Although I mean, I suppose I'm marginally on Team USA, but yeah, this is that their confidence may become insufferable at some point here if they win this game. So maybe it'll further put the target on their back.
There's like 3 factors here. Like it's the first game of the tournament, and 2 factors actually, and it's their home game, right? So
that's true.
They win that, and you combine these 2 boosters, these 2 facts, together. I think that can drive the ego to a whole new dimension.
In fairness to them, I think they're like trying to put on the kind of the American persona here to lean into it. But yeah, no, I think it's good fun.
We're just gonna play Darklings, bro. Everything's gonna be fine. That kind of stuff.
I'm just gonna play Darklings, bro. Oh man. We'll see if they just do Darklings every game now. So I think we did. I mean, I think it was a really. I do think one of the decisions of the game was for them to pick that north spot for their starting placements.
I think it was a gamble, right? And it paid off because Nomads ended up joining them.
Yeah.
And you see, Nomads didn't do anything with that dwelling, so it might have just as well sat somewhere else. And Nomads are in no short of open yellow hexes to build. So even if that one goes away through Darklings taking it eventually, I don't think that really matters for them.
Yeah. Nomads were seat 1, right? So they got to place 2 dwellings in a row there.
They had the layout. Yeah, exactly. They knew everything, right?
And I think it was. I actually think that was really. I'd be curious how this game had played out if Nomads hadn't taken them up on that.
Yeah, I think it's because Nomads. The reason for Nomads to go there, I think, is to guarantee another town spot with another neighbor. But as we saw this game, there was no shortage of town spots for Nomads here. So maybe in hindsight, maybe that was a slight, well, maybe not a mistake, but that was a good thing for Team USA at the very least.
Yeah, and I think disproportionately helped them as opposed to Nomads.
Because then you see the track, the round 3 temple. This is if you're gonna build a round 3 temple, right? You're gonna need to build at least 2 trading posts, which means you have to have 2 spots on the map where you have a neighbor. And if Nomads don't join them there, it's not clear how they get that second in round 3, right? Because it looks a bit iffy for them. So
that's right. And I think like aggression in Terra Mystica is really interesting because of course there's sandblasting, right? Like someone, and digging people's hexes. And I think that's the one we see, right? Like, oh, this is the hex they needed for their town. And then you just kind of crunch it. But there's all kinds of very, very subtle passive aggressive hostility. And it's not so much that you attack them, but you just put them in very difficult positions.
Exactly. It's the threat more than the action.
Yeah.
That is really cumbersome for other players and really
you make it awkward, right? You make decisions that puts the other player in awkward positions. And I think in this game, I do think Orin were hurt by Nomads, and it didn't kill them or anything. It just, they had to use that double dig on the red, or they felt they had to. It just got awkward quickly. And that was enough, I think, to throw them off a little bit. And I think in the same way, leaving Darklings up there, it doesn't kill them or anything. It just puts them in an awkward position that I think would have been helpful.
Exactly, because now they do a choice. Maybe they choose to either immediately triple dig that center red to get another neighbor. Then they give Stormlings more reach in the early game. They don't expand out as much, or maybe they don't do the temple in round 3. So maybe they lose on the priest production and 4 points in round 3. So it's butterfly effects, right?
Yeah,
right?
I see that. It's a kind of a super random thing, but I was just keeping that in the back of my mind because I do think that was actually a really big moment in this game. Yeah.
It's small things like that, which is why this game is so nice and it's so fun. It's because you really get to see the impact of these small decisions as the game. And all you're trying to do when you're playing the game is trying to estimate what are these impacts going to be in order to inform you on what you should do, but it's not always obvious how the chain of events will unveil itself, right?
Exactly. And I think the other thing that's interesting is I view it not as a game of, attack and retaliation as some people do.
Our dear organizer, Mr.
Some people are more retaliatory in their approaches, but I view it more as like checks and balances, actually, right? Like so for example, like given that nomads went there, right? Like if nomads don't give the neighbor there, then darklings are at a disadvantage. Well, now you don't mind helping darklings a little bit elsewhere, right? So it's like sometimes, one person, party A putting party B in an awkward, challenging position now actually doesn't mean that they should retaliate. It means that other factions now need to rebalance in how they're thinking, and actually C and D were unaffected by that. And so now those are actually the ones that need to be targeted.
Exactly, because if you try to retaliate directly towards the person that caused you harm or whatever, it might not be as effective for you as to do another move, right? So, and now we just see one of these competitive moves where Team USA just dug out one of Team Brazil's open yellow hexes on.
Interesting.
So I guess Brazil has to. I guess they won't beat them in network. It's going to be a tie, probably. They're both sitting at 13 right now. And I don't see a way for Brazil to put an extra dwelling. So, yeah.
So, swarmlings are done, right? So they'll pass. I mean, they'll get their 4 points from Air 1.
Mm-hmm.
And Orin have a surprising amount of resources still.
Yeah, I think they have a lot of points coming in. I think they've been mostly sending priests or taking their cult actions, or they play it slow, but they have some points left, right? I would guess 3 TPs would be like 3 TPs and 1 temple. Maybe that's possible. I think so. I would.
Yeah.
Roughly.
I think it's close. Yeah.
At the resources. So that's 18 points still that's coming their way. But it's not too shabby either.
Yep. No, that's right. That's interesting. Yeah, I'm curious to see how that then adds up.
We'll save the math, right?
Yeah, that's right. No math.
Even though everyone is doing math right now, I think even the viewers up on Twitch.
I think it's really. I think a cool feature of this tournament will be that each game will be on a different map, or at least with a different setup. It's just going to add so much variety to this, and then the little bit of rotation in which countries are in at which time. It's going to be a lot of fun. So put on your calendar now. Next Saturday, 9 a.m. Eastern, and 3 p.m. Berlin, or whatever I said earlier. That'll be the next round, and you'll see the debutante DanyB with Team Canada.
Yep.
Next weekend, which is exciting, and some other very stylish players on that team, and Zoris, Chris Ho, and George Shortwell, who's both great at Terra Mystica and a really nice guy.
Yep. Pretty happy with our every. You mentioned like Team Asia has a strong camaraderie and strong sense of team spirit, and I think we have the same thing over at Team Canada right now. We're pretty happy with this tournament. I think it's just such a wonderful idea. We all love board games here, right? And so what's better than just getting together and just talking about it and playing together? I think it's just a fantastic idea.
Yeah, no, I think it's great, and it's so we're starting to see teams get close to pass out. We got a few moves left here. I mean, one thing that's kind of interesting with Fire 2 tournaments, and if you haven't supported Fire 2 on Patreon or subscribing in Twitch, consider doing so. I know production puts a ton of work into this, and so it really, really appreciates the support if you'd consider doing that. But regardless, viewing is also support in itself. And I think it's a really exciting idea at a time where interest in chess has blown up, interest in chess streaming has blown up, esports interest has blown up, board game interest generally have blown up, in addition to digital board games has kind of emerged as a thing for the first time during COVID. And I think Fire 2 is saying, this is like a pretty. I'm very, very curious to see what the next 3 years look like in this sphere, and I think the Fire 2 tournaments, they do a really, really good job with this. And they'll be moving into Settlers of Catan. So if you're watching and you are a Catan fan, Fire 2 Tournaments is going to start covering the biggest Catan tournament out there, King of Catan. So keep your eyes out for that as well. I expect that to be similarly really high quality.
And well, everybody has passed. We see the final drama, the final.
Here we go.
Moment. We'll see which faction will prevail. Which one will fall?
And this is just the first of 4 games for each of these teams. And I think all 4 teams really acquitted themselves nicely. I think we saw some really interesting play here for all 4.
Yep, definitely. And it looks... I don't want to predictions. I just want to let it roll out. It's for the pleasure of it.
My sense is that Team USA recognizes the importance of Brazil starting in the north.
Yeah, I think so.
Wow.
It's so close for the second place.
Wow. So I'm going wow, okay. So we have a tie for second between Orin and Darklings and a dominant Swarmlings performance.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic Swarmlings game. I mean, we knew in our hearts that you have to just bid Swarmlings down. It's just the nature of the beast.
Yeah. Yeah. So, as we said, all this game, they just unfazed Swarmlings. They're the most unfazed ever. You just cannot disrupt them.
Yeah, it's unfair how good they are.
Yeah, them going early here was a bit of a surprise, I think.
Yeah.
The early track looked pretty good for them.
Well, they're just so strong that like you just have to baseline account for them. But I think maybe there are some just pivotal things and things people were concerned about. It's hard to see all this play out in advance, and I think Team Europe did a really nice job there. So does Team Europe maybe has the target on their back going into the next round? We'll see how this goes.
And that was Asia.
What's that?
Team Asia, you did really well. Coming back from that double dig you had to do on. I was just seeing your wife right now. That's why I'm allowing myself to talk about that. But
so Jekyll from Team Asia she was playing in the tournament in the other room. So she just walked in and is with me here at the microphone. But well done. Nice tie for second.
Was it crazy?
Yeah.
Tight.
It felt very, very intense.
That double dig on the red, that was a pivotal moment, I think, for Team Asia, and it looks.
What did you think of that?
We thought that I'm assuming Europe
town blocked.
I'm assuming Europe will join us in a second here, but yeah, we thought Nomads put a lot of pressure on you guys. Yeah, so just decided that double dig was preventative.
Oh, but you should have heard us cheer when Swarmlings didn't take the dig scroll. We thought for sure they were going to take it.
Then you needed that to protect that town. Yeah. Okay, so you cheered. There was a cheer in Team Asia. That's awesome. I love it. That's great.
Here, let me go back.
All right. That was Jekyll.
Inside information. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I love to hear that there was like a rousing cheer in the team room to get a particular bonus girl.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Team Europe. Well done.
Super nice game. Super nice game.
Thanks.
This is DanyB and MrFickles joining your team room. Congratulations. What were some kind of key moments for as you planned this out? What were some key decision points that you felt were pivotal for you guys clinching this? And I guess I'll ask Shevok. Shevok, you were the pilot today, is that right?
I think I'm not sure if Shevok can talk right now, but Shevok, can you talk?
I think I can talk now.
Yeah, go ahead, Shevok.
I think we had the like good. The game plan was to build D6 and D10, like Sanctuary Stronghold. And we would have gone for the first round Sanctuary if we had resources, but we didn't have, so we delayed it to second round. That was almost equally good option. And then we made this call to actually take Earth 1 instead of Water 1, because we decided to put some pressure to the favor tiles.
Yeah.
And then on the second, later on, we decided to go for Air 1 instead of Water 1 to get extra worker, even though that was slightly risky because then there was even more pressure to the favor tiles, but we were quite confident that we will actually get the Water 1 even if we do it. So we decided to put some pressure to Water 1 as well.
Okay. Yeah, I think that was a solid plan. I think it really put pressure. I think is the word of this game. There was a lot of pressure both from nomads and you exerted some pressure on the favor tiles. So I think that was a pretty smart play.
It was pretty funny that on the was it fourth round or something, like everybody instead of taking the coins power action took Water 1 instead because there was the pressure.
Yeah, that was the third round, I think, and the temple round, the third round.
Yeah. So everybody passed on the coins, even though everybody wanted the coins because Water 1 was still there.
Yeah.
And this is that's a great example. This is super high level play, right? This is the highest level, and I think that takes a lot of discipline to think through that trade off. And we have a sideline reporter who reported to us listening from Team USA that they were went to trading post with their first move, hoping to dangle the coin action as bait to see if someone else would take it. But of course, you guys all went Water 1, and I think that worked out really well for you. We were also commenting on how stylish your two towns are, like 4 TPs alone, and then the nice rounded symmetry on the sanctuary town. So you guys also get a bonus point for style. So congratulations on that.
Obviously.
Yeah, you got a plan for that. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about playing as a team. I mean, this has got to be good for camaraderie, team building. What was it like with so many ideas going around? And how much were you able to plan this in advance? What was the auction phase like in terms of your discussion?
Well, we were figuring out that the Darklings are probably the strongest faction here. And they are probably 5-10 points stronger than Nomads. And then Nomads, on the other hand, are probably some 5-10 points stronger than Swarmlings. And we expected the Oren to be the 30 pick. And we were actually quite surprised and happy that we got the Swarmlings for 30 because I think it's the better deal. But yeah. And we were basically during the auction discussing where the starting positions probably should be, and even our own evaluations fluctuated during the auction because we realized that hey, maybe Nomads will not start here and maybe Darklings will start somewhere else instead, and so there was slight fluctuation even within the auction, but I think we got a good deal out of the auction in the end with Swarmlings at 30.
Yeah, it certainly sounds and looks that way, definitely. Yeah, and I think you were able to play, your own game, hit the pass tiles quite a good fashion, and you just secure a standard Swarmlings game. So yeah, that was a flawlessly played.
We struggled a little bit for the pass tiles on round 5 and 6. We didn't get the pass tiles we wanted. We actually made a misclick on end of round 4. We were wanting to take the priest power action to delay 2 turns in order to get the big building power passing tile, but I misclicked some conversion to coin from power to coin and couldn't afford the priest power action anymore. So then we couldn't get the pass tile, but in the end it didn't matter. I think we would have had slightly better game if we had gotten it, but I think it worked out quite nicely this way as well.
And I think so you were sitting on the shipping tile in that round, and so you would have maybe been able to pass quickly after that for the shipping tile again. maybe I'm wrong on the timing of what you're saying, but yeah.
We had shipping tile, and
Yeah.
I think was it Oren or somebody was like before us with the big building bonus tile, and then we were basically just waiting for them to pass and hoping to like stay until they pass. But then we did this small error, misjudgment or misclick, and then didn't end up getting the passing tile. But I think securing the second down was nice as well, and that prepared us for a really fast pass for the final round. We were actually expecting to get the passing tile. We didn't end up getting it, but others had to pass really early for them to get it, so they didn't do optimal turn either.
And I just have one last question, just a quick question. Why did you favor your second town in the south rather than the north? I'm just curious about that. I have some ideas, but I want to see get your input on that.
We were first thinking of going to north, but the double spade action, I think it was taken. So if we go to north, we want to take B7 before anything else, because then we secure that the nomads cannot sandstorm A8. And we were afraid of nomad sandstorm, and that's why we didn't go there without the double spade. So we had only the single spade, and with the single spade we decided to block Oren a little bit and then build the second down to south instead.
Yeah, I think that was a very good play as well. Not something that's so obvious immediately, but certainly stands out as a good decision.
Team Europe, huge congratulations. Halai, Gino, and the rest of the squad. I think there was a really, really nice, clean performance here and great evaluation on Swarmlings and Jevok. It's really exciting to have you in the board game arena Terra Mystica community, and excited to have you and Chi Chang, who I think is Dave the Minion, on BGA. I think welcome to the community, and all Snellman players are always welcome to play in the live play world. The more the merrier, we say.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you.
Cool.
Awesome.
Well, I guess that wraps it up, I think, for
all right. Well, thanks, DanyB. Pleasure. Spending some time with you, and to viewers, thanks for joining us. This has been Fire 2 Tournament Terra Mystica International Clash Game 1. Put on your calendar next Saturday. We're going to do this again. Take care, everyone.
Take care. Bye-bye.